me shrink this down. Let me mute out another computer here. And incredibly, we have people calling our phone system all morning long. Just for the record, we did shoot out information last night in an email, and we shot it out again this morning. TJ, do me a favor. People can dial in. There you go, TJ. Thank you. And you guys can dial in or hear from your computer. Either way, you're going to be able to hear. You're going to be able to see only through the presentation screen, which is at startmeeting.com/join/Kelby Smith. But here we go. Look, this is not so much a journey of information on how to fill out a passport application as it is an ideology and understanding of who you are and what has happened or what has transpired. So I'm going to do my best to make sure that you understand the nature of what happened in our country, not to a extreme degree. It's going to be lightly touched, and I'm going to tell you an experience that I had that changed my life forever and has helped me to focus on what I believe is the important aspect of becoming a quote-unquote sovereign or a citizen of heaven or a citizen under God, with jurisdiction under God. So this is an ideology, but it's well-rounded in law. And so forgive the voice, but I've been on the phones for a couple of weeks, and we have this is the largest registration we have had in a seminar. Not ever, but people are really voicing a concern and a need, and they want this information. So here we go. Here's your schedule. Again, the calendar for today is pretty simple. In about an hour and a half, we're going to take a break. We're going to have a lunch at 1 o'clock Pacific. When I speak in time, I speak in Pacific Standard Time. I do not speak on East Coast time. I don't even speak East Coast. And that's to my friends out there, because I got a lot of buddies out there. We'll be back after an hour break at 2 o'clock. At 3:30, we'll again have another break. And then at 4 o'clock, we're going to do questions. Now, the questions are not going to be handled in a Q&A process where we go back and forth, because some people steal the show and want to talk problems and don't listen to instructions. This is about how do we get a passport properly applied for as a state citizen. This is my venture. This is my knowledge that I've learned from a ton of other people, and I've added to and taken away some stuff just based on what I have found in the law. And I know that you guys are absolutely going to appreciate this. Now, I'm the coordinator of the event. You might want to take a screenshot of this. If you have any emails regarding questions or events, apply at statecitizenship.org. Now, questions are about this seminar or about this webinar, not questions about your respective situation. Okay. The reason is we can't possibly get to all of the questions about this event or about your personal problems, and so we want to make sure that we're lawfully and legally working through HISAdvocates.org to address anybody's personal questions or needs, because that is a private membership organization, and we have rights within that group to help each other with legal, lawful related questions. So we structured up a VIP membership there that we're going to talk about a little bit today. But we do help anybody, and we are a ministry, but we're a self-supported ministry, meaning we don't take random donations from people for millions of dollars, or they don't gift us buildings per se, or they don't gift us land. And so we work for our compensation. But we do have a YouTube. You can go to youtube.com/HISAdvocates, and we post most all of our videos there, or a great portion of them. This is your screen. Now, I want to point this out. Down below here, you have the ability to, if you see the documents. Now, I could have put a ton of documents in there, guys. I got 100 gigs, I don't know, of some unreal amount of documents, and I just put the information pertaining to passports, and that was it. I didn't want to go and load every single document, supporting case. I'm only putting a few things there to help you start your endeavor to understand what it is to be a State of the Union citizen. If you register for Level 2 training, now here's an offer for today, and then it's important. If you register by the end of the day, you get a $20 discount. I believe I programmed it to be good through tomorrow, tomorrow night. But just in case I didn't, there's a $20 discount for Level 2 training. There's no way to train all this stuff, guys. This is years of knowledge, and I don't even think I could do it in 2 trainings or 10 trainings or 100 trainings. This kind of stuff that you grab from different websites. And just as a plug to TJ and different guys out there, they have their own websites, urlaw.org and stuff, and we've all helped each other to come to an understanding of next level information and kind of rooting through the garbage to discover truth and what is real, because there's a lot of, I hate to use the word patriot ideologies that aren't true, and if you get down to the brass tacks and do your investigation, you'll find out that it really kind of makes us look stupid when we don't do our homework and our research and stuff. So I'm putting a white paper together, and it's pretty much 95% done. I got to fine-tune it, organize it, do some columns for it, get an index for it. But I'm gonna, if you register for the Level 2 training, we're going to be giving away a white paper, and this is about 70 pages of compiled information, cases, and why, and it's going to show exactly why the difference and how to get back. Now, every case site on State Citizenship /Sovereignty in a PDF, there's too many to share in this presentation. I would love to give them to you, but guys, literally there's hundreds of Supreme Court rulings with various different degrees of what they talk about with state citizenship. I just can't possibly share it all with you. I haven't even posted a single case under the document share. I'm going to be creating a Dropbox of all my share, and anybody that wants that at the Level 2 event, we're going to do that. But you're going to have to get a terabyte of share on your Dropbox account, which I think like $9-10 a month, so that you can access this data. Now, you're going to get lost when you go into it, but you're going to see the compilation of what we've done over the last 8 years to get to this point. So go register at statecitizenship.org, and you get an email with all this information, meaning register for the Level 2 event. If you go to statecitizenship.org, you're going to see down a registration for the Level 2 event. Again, it's only $79 today. And look, I would like to reiterate that we do not answer lawful legal personal questions through an email or phone whatsoever. Do not use the above posted information to ask questions about your personal needs or issues. All questions that are legal in nature may only be asked by a VIP member of HISAdvocates. Special offer. If you do a VIP membership, today, we'll give you the first 30 days free. Just go ahead and use a coupon code admin30, admin30. Now look, this is going to include the living in the private group. This is a new group. It's a sub domain within HISAdvocates, completely private, and it's going to be an area in which everybody can converse and dialogue about what their needs are and what's going on with state citizenship. This is our home screen. What I am going to do is play you a quick audio. TJ, I need you to tell me if you can hear the audio. Here we go. All right, I'm coming back on. What I'm going to do is kind of mitigate through what I'm trying to present on the audio here. We have a special group right there at the at the HISAdvocates.org where you click on the Living in the Private group. It brings you into an area where you click on the terms of service for the Living in the Private, and you actually come into our private back office group that is meant for VIP members and people that want to start what we believe is a modern day exodus. At the top, we have a forum section with everything that you can imagine, from conspiracy facts or theory to what everybody is seeking information on, the Social Security number, registration for a car or home, rescinding the agencies, and all that stuff, health, house, land, property, the different aspects of public franchises or the powers to be, and the creator, and the proof, scientific proof of a creator, which is the most important thing to understand, because everything that hinges on state sovereignty is about the creator. So, guys, I apologize about the audio aspect on this. We recorded something for you here. It's obviously not playing, so I have to mitigate with holding this in my hand, allowing for you guys to be able to hear. And here we go on to the next slide. Okay. Let's pray. Excuse me, guys. If you object, you can place the phone down for about 2 minutes, but otherwise, it's considered consent. I open up all my webinars, all my seminars in prayer. If you need to understand one thing about state citizenship, it's all predicated on God, and you really do need to get your mind wrapped around that, because you don't have a citizenship where He is the sovereign unless you understand and have an allegiance to Him, and that's going to be something that is discussed. Otherwise, put the phone down for a couple minutes, but we're going to pray. Father God, we want to thank you so much for this opportunity to pray. Excuse me, guys, my voice is going. And bring forward information, Lord, that is unlike anything anybody has ever heard. God, we love you. We respect you. We honor you. We have an allegiance to you. We proclaim the allegiance through the Son, your Son, Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, the one who died on the cross, the one who, by His shed blood, the innocent blood of the Son of God, we have the remission of sins for the entire earth. Lord, help us to get our mind wrapped around that, because without that, we have no freedom, no spiritual freedom, and no physical freedom. Help us, Lord, to understand the importance of that nature. We thank you. We love you. It's in Jesus' name only that we pray. Amen. Okay. All right, here we go. Guys, I am your presenter. The name as you see it is in proper form. And I want you to get your minds wrapped around what I'm trying to convey to you. This is actually my birth certificate. There's a misspelling on my birth certificate of my my mother's maiden name, and it was corrected later. But this is a certificate of live birth. It is not a birth certificate. This is the one where my original has my prints of my hand and my foot, which are the this is kind of like a certificate. Or a bill of lading, or a ship's manifest. It is what's known as a fiction, a creation of man. It's an artificial person. This is not me, but it is a representation or a certificate of my being born. It's just a record. Now, here's the interesting thing. Sorry, I got to clear my throat. I need to get some water. I'm drinking some stuff that tickles my throat for some reason. All right, so I want you to look down at the place where my mother signed. It says parent or father or other informant. Now, people would normally think a parent is the mother or the father, and that is by definition one of the definitions in law, but it's also a parent is an assigned guardian by a court. Now, this is what I'm going to say is absolute theory. I can't find anything about what I'm about to say to you in law. But I can tell you that this is a registered organization, and here's proof. It's a certified copy of my registered organization known as Kelby Thomas Smith. Now, if you were to blow up the screen and look at the bottom left corner right about here, it's so small, you see it says American banknote paper. So question, why is your birth certificate on registered, bonded, 32-pound watermarked banknote paper? So you go back to here where my mom actually signed, and you read under the section where it says parent or other informant right here on her signature area. If you look at the definition of informant, there's many definitions. There's one that says one who turns one over. So this is a theory. Now, I understand the 73rd Congress has taken and assumed all rights and interests in public and private property, including your children. That's what they stipulated. Now, this is an agreement. Whether you think it is or whether you don't, you're actually certifying that the above information is true and correct, and that the persons known as Patricia blah 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 and Michael blah 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 are the mother and father of this newborn baby, and that this mother is signing as the informant turning one over. And here's what the state does. This is theory, but the state registers you into their database and into a private registry, and which is how they get paid under the Social Security Administrative Act. This is how they get paid. If you look around page 650 of the Social Security Administrative Act, the state gets paid a certain amount of money per person. This is a person, and it's about $1.5 million per year. And you could find it around page 650 of the Social Security Administrative Act of 1933. All right, clearing my throat so you don't hear I'm muted out. All right. So the theory is that they take this, they make a public notification of your birth. Why? Why does the state publicly make a notice of your birth? Did you ever think about that? It's because they're waiting for somebody to maybe make a claim. Now, this is a great theory because there's no other reason for them to make a public notification. I know that they have their reasoning. I know that they'll tell you their reasoning. But you got to ask yourself, why are they making a public notification? And then it's not of the Christian name, which is all lowercase, or the man's name, which is all lowercase. It's of the person's name, which is all capitalized. And so, thank you. So when you are making a public notification and nobody responds, you've done due diligence. It's like public service when you're, like lenders do all the time when they can't find service on an individual at a home because they're ducking service or whatever. They do a public notification. It costs a lot of money, and they got to register in the newspapers and stuff. But when nobody comes and makes a claim, they're now able to proceed forward in their case. And in this particular case, when nobody comes and stakes a claim, they stake a claim on that person. Isn't that interesting? That's a theory. It's a pretty good theory, though, based on the way that they behave with these persons. It's my personal history. I've done loans for 16 years. I stopped doing them in 2008 when I found out the truth about loans. I am a hard money expert. I still do private capital if people need private capital in Arizona, California, Nevada. I'm still very much do that. Unfortunately, private capital is much more expensive than a government loan, but it is what it is. You want private money from an individual. That's what it takes. Now, I do hold a broker's license in California. I have done everything that I'm about to teach you successfully. I've been very successful in business. I've had personally probably 1,200 employees. I have been a lender. I have table-funded transactions. I have funded transactions. Now, if you understand the difference. I've had I've rented out building spaces, $24,000 a month. I've had to pay bills $300,000 to $500,000 a month. I've had to figure many things out to run business. Now, that's a small business per se, but it's just to show you I understand the components of lending, foreclosure, the finances, and a transaction, and now it's kind of led me to this, which is not a new venture, but it's a new understanding for you guys. So I've helped many people with jurisdictional issues, social services, abductions, court. I've helped thousands to learn how to help themselves to stop the theft of their homes. I studied the Word of God for 25 years. My middle name is Thomas. When I was a kid, I considered myself Doubting Thomas. I was born and raised Catholic. I was an altar boy. I rang the bell. I've studied world issues now for about 10 years, and I'm not talking about watching CNN or the other one, Fox. I'm talking about actually getting down to the truth behind the issues. I've been married over 20 years, father of 3 children. I'm the executive director for HISAdvocates.org. I encourage you to check out that ministry and that website. Again, all questions need to be posted to apply at statecitizenship.org. We will read them and answer them to the best of our ability today around 4 o'clock. Now, guys, the next 2 slides are probably the most important 2 slides of this whole webinar. If there is a nugget that you're going to write down and you're going to listen to and repeat, it's the next 2 slides. Okay? This is the most important information that I could ever say to you. And it doesn't matter what else I say. If you only get these next 2 slides, you are enriched, and it's going to be well worth it beyond anything you could ever imagine. When I say subject matter jurisdiction can be challenged at any point, I mean it. We just had a case in Hawaii where I was working with a gentleman to duck service. Why do I do that? Because I don't believe the lender ever made a loan. I believe it's fraud in the factum, and I can prove it with the patents from the United States Patent Office that all loans are fraud in the factum and that United States citizens are being lied to when they go get a loan transaction. They are prepaid, pre-funded, and that's why I, as a believer, don't have any problem telling somebody that it's okay if you could not pay on your mortgage. It's okay because it was prepaid. You don't owe the debt. They lied. As a matter of fact, I've held my hand up. I've asked people and tens of thousands of people across the nation, have you ever received a countersigned set of loan documents? And everybody always answers with no hands up. Nobody has ever received a countersigned set of loan documents. It's because a constructive trust is being developed. They're using your signature to get prepaid dollars. Here's the point. This gentleman in Hawaii, he knows who he is. I helped him duck service for about a year, year and a half. And they finally were going into court to get their judgment that they served on him publicly in a newspaper because he didn't have a mailbox. They couldn't find him. They couldn't serve him at any other location. And so they were doing public service. They came into court. They were going to get a judgment against him. And we went in and we rebutted jurisdiction. And I spent 5 minutes with him on the phone. This is what you say when they say this. This is what you say when they say this. This is what you say when they say this. Subject matter jurisdiction can be rebutted and challenged at any point, including in prison. And so he rebutted jurisdiction. He did not recontract with him in court. The judge said, we're going to go ahead and accept this service. He said, objection, you don't have authority to. Subject matter jurisdiction must be addressed before this court can proceed forward on anything. The judge said, I will take this into consideration. And he ordered my guy back. My guy said, objection. He said, this court, again, does not have subject matter jurisdiction, cannot order me to come back at any point. And long story short, he left the courtroom, and they have not reserved him. There is no judgment. There is no procedural thing moving forward. They must establish it first, and that's what process service means. Okay, they want to get you to go to court. And even if you've been served, you can't rebut the presumption. That's one of the most important things to get your mind wrap around. Second thing, passport. Look, guys, I've heard it all. I've heard it all. I've got a diplomatic immunity passport. Great, show it to me. Show it to me. What color is it? I'm just telling you, I've heard it all. Our job now is to be responsible men and women of God and to find and seek the truth. Okay? I've heard 5-star passports. I'm getting a 5-star passport. Whoever out there is saying that, I'm not calling them a liar. I'm just saying they're not thinking it through, or they haven't done the same due diligence I've done. But I've asked people that I know for a fact are United States citizens and have 5-star passports. And then they'll say that it's because they're related to me, and I'm like, no, come on. There is some meaning behind the stars, I'm sure, but I don't think it has anything to do with your status. So stop it. And if anybody tells you they have a diplomatic passport, just request to see it, because I would love to see it, and then call me up. All right. I have yet to meet those people. I've yet to see them, and every time they get called out on it, I've asked them to see it nicely and respectfully, and I'd give you $100. I'll fly out to you. Let me see it. Nobody has shown it to me. Here's the point. The application is yours. In federal court or in state court, jurisdiction must be established. So they type how they get jurisdiction on the first 2 pages of an indictment for a warrant, to search your home or whatever. They have to show an established jurisdiction. And so how they do it is this, and I'm going to probably reiterate this a couple times on this webinar. Zip code, zip code, zip code. And I've said this in previous trainings. I'm going to say it in this recorded one because there's a lot of people on this recording that need to hear this. If you read the indictments, it says, I saw such and such person at such and such residence location at such and such address. So they did a physical sighting of a person at an address. Okay, address, person, residence. Those are key words we're going to define later. Then I saw subject person went down to the United States Post Office, and subject person receives personal mail. Why would they say that? As such and such address. How does that establish? I mean, think about it. We never really thought this through. How does that establish jurisdiction? Well, you as the registered organization are representing that person by and receiving mail, meaning you're the trustee of the trust. And when they're in court and they say, are you this person? And you say, yes, you're automatically guilty because they've established the trust that you're the trustee, and then all liability of that charge instrument comes onto you. Period. That's a fact. Okay? That's not a myth. That's such a fact it's retarded. So, whenever you're in court and or any of these issues arise, this is an important position for you to stand on. Are you a man, or are you a person? Are you the U.S. citizen that's receiving benefits, or are you a man under God that doesn't rely on a corporation to receive its benefits? Or have you delineated yourself as the man from the person and hence still receiving the benefits, or the byproduct of the recipient of the actual person who is receiving the benefits? So you're the trustee over the trust. So the identification, the passport, the card, the driver's license, that's all theirs. They present that to you, and that person has a likeness or a picture of you, but it's not you. That person is them. Now look, the only identification on this earth in our country that says given name or surname on the actual identification is the passport, period. So when you take the time and look at given name or surname on the passport, that is the correct way to say a name of a man or a woman. It is not last name and it is not first name. However, They still capitalize the name on the passport. They still capitalize the information, and we're going to talk about the laws that relates to capitalization. So when you're in a court case and you've challenged jurisdiction and say you're in custody, they're going to bring forward your applications of your passport, your bank accounts, and everything that you check the box U.S. citizen. Now, if they had full autonomy over you as a person or a man or a woman, why, once you've challenged subject matter jurisdiction, do they have to prove as a corporation that they have it? And it's because they don't have it unless you made a contract with them. It's that simple. They have to come in with jurisdiction and prove it. And your application is what they bring. So what is important here? It's your application. It's not the identification. Okay. Words mean what you intend them to mean for that specific contract. And it's reverse for them. So for an example, and I'm going to go into this later as well, when you read a driver's license application, it says, I understand I am a United States citizen and I am under federal jurisdiction. Why would they have to put that on a driver's license application? If the government, which they're trying to get all their alphabet soup agents to understand, so are we. We want them to understand. We want them to know there's a better opportunity for them. And thank God there's somebody that's talking about the word American at the inauguration and not talking about something different. Thank God there's somebody that's saying, and we're going to give the power back to the people. Now, whether he means that or not is a whole other thing. My point is, contracts and words are what they wrote them for and what they intended for them to mean. So the word United States on a driver's license application for them means Title 28, Section 3002, a federal corporation. The word federal jurisdiction, it means a certain thing and certain element. The word understand, when they say in court, do you understand the charges that have been presented to you? That word understand in Black's law means one thing, and Webster's means totally something different. We're going to talk about that later. You are only as good as your latest contract, line 2. Guys, right here is critical. How you address contracts, how you sign contracts, how you maintain your rights on contracts, how you deal. You're only as good as your latest contract. I don't want to say that over and over because I can't, but that is a fact. Okay, so you can always correct the record. So if you screw up on a contract, you can always serve a constructive notice, a recorded notice. So you write a letter, you record it in the county or in a case or some public notice, and then you send them a copy of that public recording. That's called constructive notice. Then they know public has seen it, and then they have to act in good faith and correct the record. Okay. You can remove your signature from any document anywhere lawfully. Okay, on HISAdvocates.org, I've taught people how to remove their signatures from documents lawfully for the last 5 years. That one is the most critical thing in the world. This was the eye-opener for me when I read on a California driver's license application as an adult that I had to agree to something. I'm like, wait a minute. And it says, and I agree if I have a .08 alcohol limit or higher, I am culpable for 6 months in jail or more. I'm like, and I started thinking to myself, why do I need to agree to that? I mean, don't they just have power over me? Think about that for a sec. You give power to the wrong people. You have power, and you're giving it away, and you don't know it. Okay, this is a critical element right here, guys. Now, citizens, I'm going to read it to you in case you can't read it. This is the freedictionary.com definition 2017. Those who under the Constitution, which is bullcrap, and the laws of the United States. So citizens are under the laws of the corporation or of a particular community, and we're going to discuss what community means, of or of a foreign country. So what they're saying is The United States, and here's the law, is a foreign corporation with respect to state. So they're saying a citizen could be a party to a particular community under territory of a foreign country or nation known as a territory. Owe allegiance, they owe it. You owe allegiance if you're a United States citizen because of benefits, and are entitled to the enjoyment of civil rights. Bull crap. I don't want civil rights. All men and women were born with unalienable rights granted by God. Black, white, yellow, red, we're all equal. They don't need to give me civil rights to tell me I'm equal under God. I have unalienable, not inalienable, unalienable rights. And now look at this. To those who qualify for that status. That's crazy. I don't need to qualify for something given to me by God. Do you see the contract nature of what these people are trying to impose as what a citizen is? Because in Black's Law 1, which is the oldest definition of a recording of case law that describes citizen, blacks, now look, I'm only going to blacks to show you what they put in their own cases, their own Supreme Court, whatever cases. These are words that are defined in those cases. Now, this is something totally different. A citizen is a member of a free or jural society. Look at that, society. Okay? Really need to get your mind wrapped around these definitions because this is important. An American law, one who is under the Constitution and laws of the United States. Which United States? And has the right to vote for civil officers. Now look at this definition. One of the sovereign people, a constituent member of the sovereignty, which is the state, synonymous with the people. A member of a civil state entitled to all the privileges. I don't want privileges, guys. The term citizen has come to us derived from antiquity. It appears to have been used in the Roman government to designate a person who has the freedom of the city and the right to exercise all political and civil privileges of the government. There was also at Rome a partial citizenship, including civil but not political rights. Now look, that's the difference right there, and we're going to talk about that as we go. They say under the Constitution, under the 14th Amendment, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and are subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. This 14th Amendment was the first time ever the word citizen in the Constitution was now lowercase. So guys, why would the Constitution have the citizen as an uppercase and later the first time as a lowercase? Bouvier's, 1867. Citizens are neither native born or naturalized. Native citizens may fill any office. Naturalized citizens may be elected or appointed to any office under the Constitution of the United States, except the offices of the President and Vice President. So, they may fill any office at any time. Now, guys, I want you to understand something here. People think that as a seated member of a Senate or a House or of a local or state government that in all cases you have to be voted for. Now this is where you point people to, because people will sit there and say, oh, I am a judge, and make claims, and you know what, they very well might be, and they very well might not be. A judge needs to be an appointed position in my opinion, but now look, a native citizen may fill any office. Naturalized citizens may be elected or appointed to any office. So a native citizen may fill any office, colon or semicolon. Next phrase, naturalized citizens. Point is, native citizens may fill any office. Fill, just take. And so there are a body politic of people, and I'm not even going to mention their name, here on this land that filled offices that were vacated in 1860 under Abraham Lincoln when the Civil War came out. And guys, I'm going to tell you right now, It's lawful. And we need to start wrapping our minds wrapped around it. This is just the opening of citizenship. Now look, disclaimers, guys. I'm not going to read all this. Excuse me. I'm showing this on the screen because you need to wrap your mind around a few funny things here, because these are literally calls I have received in the last 3 weeks. Whether you're an agent or whether you're, I bless you. If you work for the government and you're trying to stop whatever, I bless you in the name of Yeshua. But guys, we have to, as quote unquote, being under God, be stewards of the truth, and this is the truth. This is not going to help you discharge your debt. Okay, it's not going to help you pay your utility bills. No, you will not have natural rights to your earth, ground, or soil. This has nothing to do with sovereign citizen movement. This has nothing to do with how to sue the federal government. We don't want you to sue anybody. Your mother will not change her mind on how she thinks of you because of this, all right? You will not get any better looking with the passport, all right? Period. This is an education process only, and guys, it's absolutely the best thing that you will ever wrap your mind around. This does not affect you and your Social Security income or any benefit that you may be receiving. We do not offer any guarantees or warranties or anything in this presentation whatsoever, but I'm going to prove to you I've done something that you're going to go, wow. All right? No, you can't have child support due at the time you submit the application. You may, if you have a felony, be able to still get a passport. Those are important things to get your mind wrapped around. You still will have a fee with the United States Post Office. You still have to go down and apply. You don't send us anything to get this thing done unless you paid for us to help assist you to get it done. You still must respect your fellow brother and sister. This does not make you a king. Okay, and my favorite, no, President Trump will not call you and invite you to the White House for dinner because you're a state citizen. All right, I'm done. Here's our terms of service. Okay, the practice of law is an occupation of common right. Oklahoma Court Rules and Procedures. Okay. Litigants may be assisted by unlicensed laymen during judicial proceedings. Okay. Members of groups who are competent non-lawyers can assist other members of groups achieve the goals of the group in court without being charged with unlawful practice of law. All information such as blogs, forums, foreclosure calls, consultants, or vendors that are made available on HISAdvocates are for educational purposes only and for members only. Meaning of words is everything, guys. Okay. I'm not going to go into every single thing. I have 147 slides, and I'm 21 into it. I'm going to take a lot of time on some slides. But this slideshow and the words that are associated to it, meaning the notes, are going to be made available to you. We have a white paper that is going to be made available to other people that register for the second course. And the white paper is critical. I've already addressed that. So check this out. This is stuff that people need to understand. By the way, when you make a deposit or you register, in law you're giving your product over in return of something. So when you register your home, you're not actually registering your home. You're registering a property that you don't own. Okay, now I want you to, and guys, just work with me here. I know you didn't read a 1-inch thick set of documents when you signed your loan documents. It's okay. And I know that when you're recording, they ask, how do you want to record? Joint tenants, tenants in common, fee simple. What do you want to do? And the lender says, we're going to record them in community property or joint tenants or tenants in common. Tenants, 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 tenants. You're a tenant. They tell you guys what you are in the recording of these documents. Did you ever think that you were a tenant, or did you think you were the owner? Well, look, here's the bottom line. Don't pay property taxes and watch what happens to your property. You're not the owner, you're a tenant. Go your way, Daniel. Look at the bottom. Because the words are closed and sealed until the appointed time in the end. Many will be purified and made spotless and refined, but the wicked will continue to be wicked, and none of the wicked will understand, but those who are wise will understand. I couldn't say this more, I couldn't scream this louder, and I couldn't emphasize this enough times. Come out of her, my people. This is a journey for me. I've come to an understanding that it is all tied to a world system, a world structure, where the people have become the surety. And you're not to be the surety or the debt holder of anything. And anything, and I'm going to talk about this a lot, when you're tied to evil, or you're tied to the shedding of innocent blood, or you're tied to the invading of foreign countries, or you're tied to where you're literally you're a party to, you're under the Clearfield Doctrine a part of, guys, you're a party to their sin. Come out of her. Declaration. I'm just going to say a few words here. Could it be that a body of men called our founding fathers could have given us access to a citizenship that aligns itself with the Word of God? Could this citizenship that is per the Declaration of Independence, it's called self-governed, could it protect us from future tyrants? This white paper in this presentation will be an examination of what we are called to be as God-fearing men and women, citizens of the greatest nation of earth, on earth, America. We need to ask ourselves, was America by chance, or was it ordained by God? And the answer is clearly yes. God's hand is all through America. Please do not be offended by the overlaying of Christian faith into the teaching of this, because you are trying to remove yourself as the surety for the United States corporation. You need to see all that goes on with your new freedom under God, because much of what is about to be taught has something to do and can not be explained by any other reason than it's all God. This is your guide to being self-governed with God as your sovereign. Why? Because God's law is all the way through man's law. As a matter of fact, man's law is completely predicated on God's law. And in this most important trust indenture here called the Declaration of Independence, you are self-governed. You are not governed. Get that through your minds. And as Ben Franklin said, if you can keep it. Public Law 97-280 says the federal government believes the Bible is the Word of God. We are the first nation ever in the history of man to come back under God, where He is our King and where we are self-governed since the Old Testament of Israel prior to Saul. Now, I'm not going to the word gloat is the wrong thing. I'm blessed that God showed me that we're the only nation in law that's ever come back under God. Period. Think about that, guys. Think about that. In law, we're the only nation that says He is the sovereign. I'm doing a warning right here, guys, because I want you to understand many Christians across this world are going through genocide. But this is irony today, that we have attacks on God and His Word and His people. But you don't have attacks on gay marriage, homosexuality, on Muslim faith. And as a matter of fact, the old administration was literally bringing in Muslims by the millions into our country. So knowing that we have a citizenship in heaven and that we are God's people here on earth, why wouldn't it, listen to me, why wouldn't it be plausible to have a perfect jurisdiction under God and fellowship with God's people, giving us God's protection as a body politic of people, a place of safety, just like the original Israelites had? This training is going to get interesting for you as we talk about the terms, phrases, words, law, and the breakdown thereof. Okay, you can turn your head back. The word is clear that there will be a sheep nation and goat nations, Matthew 25:31-46. But when the Son of Man comes in His glory, all the holy angels with Him, then He will sit on the throne of His glory. Before Him all the nations will be gathered, and He will separate them from one another. A sheep, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goat. Now, I've done a little bit of research, so just hear me out. The scripture then says, "For I was hungry, and you gave me food, and I was thirsty, and you gave me drink." And God said, "Inasmuch as you've done for the least of these, my brother, as you've done for me." Paraphrasing. So the question is, if you look at the Hebrew for the word nations, is Strong's G1484, a race as the same habit, i.e. tribe, specifically a foreign, non-Jewish one, usually by implication a pagan, a Gentile, a heathen, a nation, a people. So a Gentile, a heathen, a nation, a people. Nations has the basic meaning of peoples, and here refers to every person alive on the earth when the Lord returns. It's not necessarily just speaking about a country, as you may think because you hear the word nation. If you understood truly what the word state means, an estate is your birth certificate. So, as Jesus is making it clear in this passage, those who are alive on earth when he returns will be included, both saved and unsaved, represented by sheep and the goats, respectively, and those two separate peoples have two separate destinations. Per the Bible, it is believed that Christians, and I don't say that word loosely. I'm not. A lot of people don't like the word Christians. People that believe that Yeshua died on the cross for your sins, that Christians will be ushered into the kingdom of heaven, and that unbelievers will go to eternal punishment. Now, let's talk about wars here in our country just for a sec, because we're going to get a basis and foundation for everything that we've ever done. Now, as a body of people, are we as a Christian nation that has been a blessing to other nations, or an evil nation that has been a destroyer of nations? And the answer is America and the United States has been both. The unfortunate fact, and this is a fact, that nearly 20 million deaths are associated with the United States corporation since World War II. This is per globalresearch.ca. The fact being portrayed is that it's all been done by America, and that's the illusion. The reality is it's been done by a few powerful people using the United States military to wage war for profit with the support of America / United States citizens. The war has been done to foreign corporations, nations. Ask most any returning veteran. And you veterans, I want to thank you, and I appreciate you, and you stood up for something you believed in. But you ask most every veteran I know who joined to protect their country, by the time they're done, many of them feel they were only there to protect corporate interests. Okay? Now, I want you to understand something, and this is important. These guys did go over there to protect an ideology, and the media was in full support. Freedom and democracy, because that's what we're about, man. We want to give our freedom and democracy to everybody in the world, right? I don't think so. See, war on terror is a never-ending war. Okay? Let me ask you a question. I'm not going to say anything, but I know something. Again, I'm not going to say anything, but I know something. What if you found out that one of the departments of the United States government was funding Al-Qaeda and ISIS? Really? What if you found out, like, do you guys realize when we left Iraq, we left all of our equipment there with the keys in it? Do you honestly believe they can hardwire tanks that are worth $3, $5, $10 million? No, they can't. I don't think we built tanks that were able to be hardwired. What about the unborn deaths in our country? 60 million babies in this country have been aborted, murdered under the color of law. We are guilty of God's law as a body politic of people. The war has also been done right here on our land through the destruction of the unborn. 60 million little lives removed, mutilated, and with the complete focus on the woman's right to choose. Now, look, I'm not going to interject my opinion to any woman on this call. But what if, just think about this for a second, what if the enemy, Satan, wanted a blood sacrifice for himself? How would you do it in modern day society? Because you certainly couldn't take a baby on an altar and cut him. It would be ruthless to America. Like Baal did it in the Old Testament days. Just think on that as we continue forward in this understanding of freedom and how it is tied to us being a Christian nation. It can be taken from us at any time based on the nation's propensity for sin. The reason why I'm saying all this, guys, is you have no freedom unless it's under God, because that's what the Declaration says. And when you create a nation of sin, God will remove that freedom from you. They are pitting us, guys, against blacks, blacks against whites, men against women, women against men, church against church, and more. The worst part is that they're pitting us against policy enforcement officers, and which are the police, and the police against us. I love you guys. I love the police. I have a lot of friends that are cops. And some of them we debate, and after a few months they cave in and they think like us. Because they're seeing the bullcrap they're being trained on. They see it. They're not stupid. Most officers are very smart and intuitive, and they're tired, and they're trying to figure out how to help the people as well. There must be a time when we as good people, as Christians, want to say, I want no part of that sin. War on our neighbors and war on our children. Freedom. Why is there such a movement against freedom? Do you notice that? Against the enemy. Satan does not want you to think that there's freedom under God, freedom to worship, freedom to do as the Lord has instructed to have dominion. Genesis 1:26, guys. Some bad guys in the United States corporation have created words like sovereign citizen and then tie it to phrases like, you know, those people that don't believe they're bound under federal law. Well, that is the big ugly secret here in our country. The fact remains the United States has to prove subject matter jurisdiction in every case against one of the people. So the ideology that people think that they are free, that a movement called sovereign citizens believes in a certain fashion, that they are not held or bound by the federal government, has some merit, at least to the point that jurisdiction always can be questioned in every case. Unfortunately, this group of people that they call sovereign citizens has fell prey to contractual relationships of becoming surety for some perceived benefit that this corporation gave them. Remember, if it didn't have merit, there would be no need to prove subject matter jurisdiction with any man or woman that was born on this land. The difference is simple, and this course is going to train you on the difference of what it means to be under the goat nation or under the jurisdiction of the greatest country on earth, the nation under God. The nation that is called America. Why is it so important to have wars and kill people using campaigns of freedom and democracy? I find it interesting that every pastor in this country isn't coming unglued with the fact that we have a media marketing these words and freedom and democracy. And as we take over foreign corporations and nations, you've got to remember what our Constitution says. You're not allowed to raid a country unless they've raided yours first. So to those words of freedom and democracy, they are said so loosely that we forget that we are a republic. Come on, pastors. Let me rephrase that. America is a republic. The United States corporation is a democracy. A republic that has a constitution that says you're not allowed to invade a foreign nation unless they invaded our land. I don't want to talk about 9/11. I don't want to talk about these various false flags. The simple fact proves that we are not a nation under the Constitution anymore unless you're an American. See, for me, my hope is to educate the pastors, educate the people to understand what God has done through men to help us in these hard days. The coming hardships, guys, to give us a reprieve to his people while we are still waiting for a return. See, we have to stand up for God and his word and to help our fellow men and women to understand the sin that they are causing both here and abroad. It is shameful that Americans are not more outraged at the fact that many people in other nations are dying so that we can give them something that is entirely different from the truth. See, you don't go into a nation and kill millions of its people under the name of God or the names of freedom and democracy, yet freedoms are merely a perception only if you have a debtor surety under the United States corporation known as being a citizen. Here's what God has shown me. It is also interesting that America is a nation comprised of hurting people all over the world. People that were dispatched all over the world came here under America. We came from every country seeking freedom from oppression. Trying to get my slide up. Okay. You can read the screen. I don't need to espouse on that. Without the, guys, I'm going to tell you something. If your heart is right with the Lord, this picture's got to do something. I know it's an actor, and I know who this actor is. But if you have no shedding of blood, we don't have the forgiveness of sins. And without going into that, blood sacrifice within the occult is not just common, but it's required. They believe it gives them power. Well, guess what? The shedding of his blood gave us power that we don't even understand. What again was the purpose of us invading Iraq? Was it that he had weapons of mass destruction? Oh, wait. Was he a tyrant? Yeah, he was a tyrant. This is 10 years after the Iraq War. I know this is not what all of Iraq looks like, but we destroyed their land, killed their people. And it looks like the United States is the weapon of mass destruction. We blew them out of the water. The fourth largest military on the earth. We blew them out of the water in just a few days. Now that I know that you can't hear this, I've got a video that I posted here. This is General Wesley Clark. He's on YouTube, and he'll flat out say on this video that he got a memo while he was at the Pentagon that said they were going to take down 7 Middle Eastern countries in 10 years. The only one currently left on the block is Iran. Let's talk about the new Babylon. I mean the new embassy in, for the United States in Iraq. This embassy is the world's largest and most expensive embassy. It is the size of, I forget how many acres, I think it's 20 acres. It's the size of Vatican City. Remember to think of the world order as a collective collection of countries, powers uniting together under one structure. The Word of God talks about that world structure. This embassy is located down the street from the original Babylon. It has the most intensive fiber optic network in the world, and it can run the military and the entire military-industrial complex through this power structure. So we crushed Iraq's economy, crushed their dinar, blew apart their physical structure, implemented our banking system, implemented new currency, brought our companies over there to repair them, put in our political candidates into offices, and set up the world's largest embassy for what? For weapons of mass destruction that we never found. Or did a bigger tyrant come into the picture? This was all done while the media made Saddam out to be this horrible guy, and we're going to save their people from freedom and democracy. Now look, guys, hear me out. Now I'm going to move on to the next slide, but this is important because this blood is on you if you're a United States citizen. We have killed 2 million of their people to achieve this lie, this goal. To say that is nothing compared to the 500,000 children that we killed. I can't tell you this enough times, guys. You're responsible through your legislature under lies, and now you know, and this blood is on your hands. This new embassy opened up January of 2009. It's 21 buildings, 104 acres. It's the most and biggest and largest and most expensive embassy in the world. It's located right along the Tigris River, facing Al-Kindi Street to the north. The embassy is a permanent structure which has provided a new base for 5,500 United States citizens currently living and working in Baghdad. So remember the media guys going in there just to help them, then we're going to get out of there. Remember the media over and over. When are we going to come home? When are we going to come home? Well, we never have. During construction, the United States government keeps aspects of the project under wraps. Many details released only to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Apart from 1,000 regular employees and 3,000 additional staff members that have been hired, including security personnel. This now has a total cost of $1.3 billion. The embassy has extensive housing and infrastructure facilities in addition to usual diplomatic buildings. The diplomatic buildings include apartments, water, waste, sewer treatments, power stations, 2 major diplomatic office buildings, recreation, including gym, cinema, and swimming pool. The complex is heavily fortified, by even the standards of the Green Zone. The details are largely secret, but it's likely to include a significant U.S. Marine Security Guard detachment, fortifications, blah, blah, blah. $1.3 billion, guys. Now, our plan was to go in and take them over. Not for freedom and democracy, not because Saddam was a tyrant. It's because there was a plan with 7 countries in 10 years, and that General Wesley Clark talks about it on YouTube. And the United States basically covered up the fraud and paid the media to do it and got America behind it because of 9/11 and more. $1.3 billion, and it looks like what? A new Capitol. Does that look like an embassy or a new Capitol building? And it's down the street from the original Babylon and could feasibly run the world through that technology. So Genesis 1:26 says, "Come out of here, my people, let us make man in our image after the likeness, and let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, heavens, and over every creeping thing over the earth." Dominion. The action that we are commanded to is to have dominion. It's a grant by God to have. And to be specific, it's over all the earth. So question comes, what is dominion? Dominion means sovereign authority in our dictionaries. In the Hebrew word, it means dominion. It means to taketh, prevaileth, reign, or rule. Jurisdiction, jurisdiction, jurisdiction. It's like location, location, location for a franchise. Well, same thing for jurisdiction. It's a key to everything. Then the Pharisees tried to trick Jesus, saying something that would have put him into Roman custody. Christ's answer was absolutely perfect. And tell us what you think. Is it lawful for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Is that not the same question we get today? So if I become a state citizen, I'm not going to have to pay taxes. Be like Jesus. Be like Jesus in your life and in your answers. Make questions out of everything. That's all Jesus did. Why would you put me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin for the tax. And they brought him the denarius. And Jesus said, well, whose likeness and inscription is this? Remember, free reign, free rule, obedience to governmental authority. So if you're under Caesar, then, he said, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. This is the best example and one of the most interesting. Ponder this. It's one of the most interesting things I've ever heard from the Word of God. If you play with Caesar, pay up. Jurisdiction 101. Governments descend to the level of a mere private corporation, take on the characters of a mere private citizen when private commercial paper, Federal Reserve notes are concerned. For the purposes of suit, such corporation individuals are regarded as an entity separate from their government. Read this over and over. Go look at the notes behind this, guys. It's a big case. The definition of money becomes extremely relevant once it is known and understood. So the question is now, what is the substance of money used by the government entity coming against you? Money, as defined in the Constitution for the several states united at Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, money is defined in Uniform Commercial Code adopted by your state legislature. See in Michigan, Michigan Compiled Law, Section 440.1101. Under definitions, the UCC itself states that its definitions are controlling over the dictionary definitions. When any state agency comes against you, normally no constitutional arguments can be allowed, since it is presumed you're dealing knowingly, voluntarily, and willfully in the commercial law of contracts, implied or written, in that state, all caps, state of the forum. You lose all protections of both state and federal constitutions if it is your encounter with the term state. Be advised that it does not mean a geographical location that you live in. The term state, lowercase, has at least 7 different definitions and meanings. Please look up Black's Law, 8th edition, and you will find there the greatest difference of state and state. Now, don't worry about looking it up. I've added it to the slides. I later thought about it. The political, colorable, corporate state does not appear as the word or a word in the Holy Bible. Okay? However, the word state comes from a Greek word, stato, which means to stand. A state is something that stands stationary, fixed, established. Establishments exist only in the common thoughts, created and sustained in the mind of men. It is a legal fiction or a fiction of law. A state is a corporate fiction existing purely in thought. Corporations and similar creations are all fictions made up in men's minds. The word, "What does that have to do with me?" will resonate forever when people ask you questions. What does that have to do with me? America is the only nation in human history established by mostly Christian people, founded on biblical natural law principles and dedicated to the purpose of religious and personal liberty and equal justice under the law for all men. This truth is easily observed within America's earliest history. All of man's law is founded on God's law. All of man's law is founded on God's law. Can't say that enough. Is this a Christian nation? And where did the idea of the separation of church and state come from? So many people out there will argue we are not a Christian nation, or that the church has nothing to do with governing. The church should not be involved in the government. On December 4th, 1800, Congress approved the use of Capitol building as a church. The approval of the Capitol for the church was given by both the House and the Senate. The House approved being given a Speaker of the House. Therefore, Sedgwick and Senate approval being given by President of the Senate, Thomas Jefferson. Interestingly, Jefferson's approval came while he was just still officially a vice president, but after he had just been elected president. Significantly, the Capitol building has been used as a church even for years before it was occupied by Congress. The cornerstone of the Capitol had been laid on the Capitol September 18th, 1793. Just 2 years later, while still under construction, July 7th, 1795, Federal Orrery newspaper, Boston, reported, and I put that here, but I'm not going to read it to you. This is a letter. Guy's name is Manasseh Cutler. He informs Joseph Torrey that Thomas Jefferson and his family have consistently attended public worship in the hall of the House of Representatives. His firsthand material fact letter that a president came in and attended church at the Capitol building regularly. Then a series of events led to the District of Columbia Act. I'm not going to get into them all. I'm going to try to get through the District of Columbia prior to the first break. They paved the streets of Washington, D.C. in late 1800s. For me, this was a wake-up call in 2008. This is an important thing, guys. I know everybody that's been following me for 8 years has heard me talk about this. There's a lot of new people that have never heard me talk about this. This call, this webinar is probably one of the biggest ones we've ever done. I want people to understand this, so bear with me. It'll take 5 minutes. This is one of the structures that is in Washington, D.C. So I'm Googling, and I look this up, and I find an upside-down pentagram in the streets of Washington, D.C. You can just simply Google the words pentagram, Washington, D.C., and you'll find the same thing. I'm not knocking. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. For me, this was a personal wake-up call because this symbol is called the Baphomet. It is the Church of Satan symbol. If you go to churchofsatan.com, it's embedded. The same symbol is on their website. It's also on the Satanic Bible from Anton LaVey. Inside the upside-down star is a goat. The goat represents a beast, half man and half beast, and that's called the Baphomet. This is the Baphomet, the beast. This is the representation of Lucifer, and there's so much symbology in this I'm not going to go into. As it is above, so it will be below. The big lie that heaven's going to be the same as hell. This is what this picture is portraying. Back to this, the point for me to tell you this is that somebody high up in society worked with a single man to draw the plans for Washington, D.C. and the structure of its layout, in which 40, 50 different symbols can be found. This is one of the symbols, and I've never seen this symbol on any teaching of any show, History Channel, Discovery Channel, nothing. I've seen a lot of symbolism shows, but never do they talk about this one. See, Congress approved this. Now, I don't think Congress knew that this was in the streets. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't know this symbol was what it was. But as a symbol embedded in the streets of Washington, D.C. So I did a little more work on the symbolism aspect and realized something that made me change my thinking about the corporation. Well, what I didn't know at the time was a corporation known as the United States, and the core leadership of powers to be that were responsible, PTB, powers to be, that were responsible for doing this and other evil things in the world. So I wanted to look up that symbol, and I look at this as a symbol, like a symbolic beast, because it's a Baphomet, it's a beast, and it's also known as a beast of the field, because that's what it is symbolically. So if you go and type the word Baphomet, B-A-P-H-A-M-E-T, on Google, you'll find an upside-down star with a goat head in the middle of it. So in the streets of Washington, D.C., when you're looking at it, you'll notice that at the top 3 points of the circle right here is Scott, I'm circling with my mouse, Logan, DuPont circles. Across the forehead of the beast, remember, let's go back. Right here, we got the forehead of the beast symbolically, right? Okay. Across the forehead of the beast, symbolically, are the numbers 666. Now, let's blow that out. Let's just say that's not a fact. Okay. Whatever, some architect took the time to do this. I don't know for a fact. Here's what I do know for a fact. Right around here where the brains of the beast would be is the 33rd High Council of Freemason Church. And if you don't know, at the 33rd degree of Freemasonry, if you're a Freemason, call me up, we'll chat. I'll prove what I'm saying to you. You find out you're worshiping Lucifer. Okay? Now you take that 33rd degree and count down 13 streets to, here's where the mouth of the beast is, remember, mouth of the beast, okay, who speaks for the brains of the beast. And guys, literally right here is the White House. So you don't think that they built this structure up and show this to the free world within an area called the District of Columbia for a reason? If you don't, what was the reason? Tell me. Because even these broken streets have a meaning and proof, and I'll explain that some other day. I don't want to talk about it here, but this is an amazing thing. So I'd like to take an approach of subject that no church or governing official will ever tell you. By the way, that took me 7 minutes, so we're through it. It may sound a bit rough around the edge, but I'm tired of beating around the bush with all this information, not getting it out to the people that that are willing to hear. This message is simple. If you're a United States corporation citizen, you're not free. You're a slave. Okay? You are to be free in Christ. You are not to be free in any other. I mean, you're supposed to be free in everything, not just free in Christ. As a matter of fact, the Word of God is, you're not supposed to, even all your debts, they've been paid. You're not free in the law. You are surety for the debt if you're a United States citizen. So whatever the debt of the United States corporation is, you are culpable for all of it. And as God's child, you're not to be the surety. It's throughout the Word. You're not to be the surety. And the United States made you surety. It's like they knew God's law, and they purposely went against it because they used the word surety as for the debt of everything. God says do not hold debt. The question is like this. If you knew you were an American self-governed under God and you took a lesser citizenship through an employment with the United States corporation called a U.S. citizen, governed under man, would you change it? The answer is simple. It's yes. So let me pose it to you this way. If you knew The world elitists had a law in place to reduce the population in the world by multiple different means. Would it matter to you? Guys, the United States corporation is reducing the world's population multiple different ways. When are we going to stop being quiet about it? Most Christians are so passive in this country they won't even listen to this topic or reality, not realizing that their whole world would come crashing down at any moment. What are we talking about in this webinar has nothing to do with your salvation. It literally only has to do with you being obedient to God's word, which says, "Come out of her, my people." So we, true Christians today, have been delivered from sin, which, is a type of Egypt. When the original slaves were under Egyptian rule, they were slaves. Well, we are now wandering in the wilderness of sin. The point is, we are dealing with facts in law today that, in my opinion, have to do with debt and surety and sin. And otherwise, you will see how the law breaks down your opportunity to make an allegiance to something other than a corporation. Remember, they don't want you to leave. Remember, it doesn't take much to keep you contracted. National debt equals slavery. Satan is the greatest deceiver. Revelations 12:9. And the great dragon was thrown down, and the ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world, was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. He was right there with the children of Israel in the wilderness, just as he's right here in the wilderness that we have now. Not only has Satan deceived our entire society, it is a magnitude that most people will have to close their minds and ears due to the pain and depression that it may cause. Some of what I may talk about today might sound conspiratorial. I'll show it to you in the law. So it's a conspiracy fact. It's not a conspiracy theory. Our goal of this webinar is to tactfully show you the important laws enacted by the United States Corporate Congress, whom are operating as the sovereign on this land called territory. This one paragraph can go very deep and cut many Christians' core beliefs about their country. The very nature of what we have here in America is being destroyed by an evil body whom are bleeding the value of Americans through the United States corporation so they can complete the one world order. Here's what you don't realize. You have more power as a man or woman, a sovereign under God, than any corporation on earth. You just don't know how to stand. You don't realize the power of the Holy Spirit. Be involved in watching Light and Dark Matters and stay focused on praying towards the light, towards God, the Holy Spirit, for your power. In my personal journey through God's Word, in reading man's law, I've been open to information that will adjust your comprehension of what the world and the enemy Satan is really up to. Jurisdiction is everything, both in man's law and God's law. Being on the wrong side of God and the Spirit is not good. But did you know that you could unknowingly be disobedient to the Creator of the universe in many different ways? The question is, at what point do you become accountable for the behavior of officials that you put into office? And at what point do we say that we say no to laws that are passed that go against God's law? Well, the enemy is such a good liar through the media and through your legislature that many don't even realize that we have multiple jurisdictions and choices right here on our land. We have faith. The enemy has made religion. Not bashing religions. Most religions take the core principles of the Bible and develop traditions for men and women to follow rather than the Creator. All law in our country was founded on God's law. This is an undisputed statement. Public Law 97-280 states that the Bible is God's law. It's the Word of God. So man recognizes the influence of God's law, the Bible, as reading the Word of God. The point is, we also have God's law, the law of nature or the common law, and the enemy has created the legal system. First, you only need to remember that the enemy is a deceiver, guys. He is the biggest liar on the earth. How big? His entire motive is to get you to believe something other than the truth. The United States is the greatest country on earth. No, America is. The United States invading foreign countries for freedom and democracy. No, it's to take them over for the gain, personal gain of corporations that make guns, ammos, tanks, bombs, you name it. He takes the right hand and flips it upside down and turns it into wrong with the perception of being right. The founding law of the Declaration is titled, you know what? We're going to break right now because this is a great spot to break. We're on slide 67. So guys, hang tight. What we're going to do is come back in a, let's say, 10 minutes. I will see you back at, no, let's say 11:40, 15 minutes. I'm not going to stop the recording. You're just going to look at this screen for the next 15 minutes. I will see you at 11:40. Thank you. Okay, we're getting ready to get back started. Do me a favor, somebody in chat, give me a confirmation you can hear me. Thanks, Skip. Okay. Thanks, Nez. All right, here we go. Thanks, Rita. Hey, Rita. What's happening? Here's Margaret. Hey, Margaret. Look at everybody. All my friends are on. I love this. Okay. Yeah, we got a huge audience today, guys. So I'm hoping this is going to get out to the masses. Listen, this is critical. What I'm about to show you guys, you're gonna appreciate probably like never before. It's titled "The Unanimous," and listen very carefully. It's the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. Okay, notice the spelling. Just as a confirmation, everybody can see the screen, right? Just one person say yes or no. Hey, John, good to see you. Francis. Thanks, Inez. Okay, so the aspect of understanding words. Remember, words are the most powerful thing. Words declare everything. We're really going to get into words later. We're going to have a lot of fun exploring words and what their meanings are. And I want to get something down. You are who you say you are, okay? And that is an important thing. So these words on this declaration are who we say we are. We are aligned with the Declaration. If you want to play, and here's the funny thing, I remember 5 years ago, they were playing the Declaration of Independence. They actually read it. Colin Powell read it. All these guys read it live at the halftime show. Guess what? It had nothing to do with the corporation known as the United States. Nothing. They do not think of man as sovereign. They do not think that you have unalienable rights. They do not think that the power of the king passed to the state or the estate, the person, the man. They don't think that. So when you understand this trust indenture done by our founding fathers who gave us the republic, now listen to me. Ben Franklin had a woman walk up to him and say, what kind of government did the convention create? And Ben answered, let me say this in how he said it. He said, a republic, if you can keep it. Now, I'm not trying to say this is what Ben Franklin meant, but could it be that they knew that what republic meant? They did. They became sovereigns on the land as a state citizen. Ben never said. He never said, I'm a United States citizen. Never. Not once in his whole life. Thomas Jefferson never said it. George Washington, for sure, never said it. None of these guys said, I am a United States citizen, because it didn't exist. It was a separate creation. And it was done under the color of law to make people think that it was the government. And they ran the two side by side for a long time, and then they quit running one. Ben Franklin said, let me say it, if you can keep it. Let me say it this way. Self-governed man or woman can and will keep it. Keep what? Their republic. Because it is for you, if you choose. It's not their choice. This is an ideology founded in the law, factually based in the law. It's not something that they can choose for you. You must choose. And if you choose through adhesion contracts to be something different, that's up to you. Now, you're going to get an education that you've never heard before, and I hope you appreciate this, because this is something I've only heard myself speak of, but it's important. Notice in the title, the United States, the word "you" in United is lowercase. And notice in that title, that big, it says States of America, the two nouns. Not United States of America, all capped. Not United States of America with a capital U. Not United States with capital U, capital S. In the words on our trust indenture, our document that we say we are a part of, it's United, lowercase, adjective, States, describing the Union. United is a description of the Union of the States of America. You have one adjective, two nouns, and one preposition. United, adjective describing and not a part of States of America, meaning you are either a State of the Union citizen, which makes you an American. It's synonymous, because you're united with being under this declaration as being a state citizen, which makes you an American. States, proper nouns, two jurisdiction. America, proper noun, the name of your country. Your nation state, or whatever you want to call it, where you're born on. That's my nationality. I'm a Californian. I guarantee Benjamin Franklin said I'm a Virginianite. I guarantee it. Because that's how they thought. That's their nation, where they came from. That was their proper name of their country. America was a byproduct of what they came together as. The proper name of the country. A preposition of, now listen to me. Preposition introduces a noun or pronoun, okay? It links two other words in a sentence. The word that the preposition introduces is its object. In other words, America is the object and not the United States or the United States of America. Hence, as an American of America, you are a State of the Union citizen. You feel me? That's English, baby. That's not hard to figure out. This is what it is. You're either an American, which is a State of the Union citizen, which is not a United States citizen. You feel me? Now, they can describe it USA, United States of America. That's all cool. I don't care how they describe it. When I'm on my applications, I describe it my way. That's all I care about. We're going to talk about that as we go. Trying to change. There we go. Okay, just a quick notation. Black's Law is the compiling of different words defined in court cases. Here's the craziest thing. The powers to be, PTB, doesn't believe that you would think that, think about. I searched up and down for the word America everywhere. I went looking for it. I couldn't find it. Finally found it in Black's Law. American was the closest thing. Why would America not be defined? Why would the United States not be defined? The United States was defined in Black's 2005, or Black's 5th edition, excuse me, 2005, Black's 5th edition, and then some judges overruled that determination, but it's in other cases as well. But the point is why are they trying to hide the nature of who this country is? Well, if you're going to commit fraud in the factum, you want to make sure you conceal your sin. I mean, okay, let's not say it so harshly. They don't want you to know what they're doing. Plain and simple. They define the United States in a few spots, but it's done very carefully, and it's not to spill the beans. We are all suffering today. We all have trials and tribulations. Maybe not as physically as much as some others, but certainly spiritually. We see God's church scattered all over the earth, and many of the people within God's church are totally lost. They don't have a clue. My pastor, I love him to death, but he doesn't have a clue about a lot of things. I love him. Godly man. Not saying he's not saved. He's more saved and probably has a better relationship than I do by far with God. He still doesn't know the truth, because a lot of these guys are programmed to think a certain way. Okay, to be an American is not to be a United States citizen, period. And we're going to get through all that. So in Revelation 17, the name written, this is a few things. I just want you to get your mind wrapped around, because people are trying to figure out and make correlations to the Bible, to coming out of her. Why are we talking about the Bible? Because why are we talking about the Bible? It's the basis of all of our law. Why are we talking? Okay, so we're going to talk about the law, but we're not going to talk about the natural law, which is God's law, the law of nature, the common law. We're not going to talk about that. No, we got to talk about all law, not just law you want to talk about. If you want to talk about law and you want to talk about what makes you what you are, you got to talk about who granted it to you. The Elohim did. There is no other God. There is no other God. The Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Now, how big is that God, guys? I'm not preaching, but we have found on our earth 4 billion known galaxies that each have trillions of stars. How big is your God? How small did you just become? But you have rights. You have this. You have that. Oh, I'm this. I'm that. I'm a self-made man. I'm a self-made woman. No. I can do what I wish. I am the creator. I can create with my mind. Well, you have a lot more powers with your mind than you will ever realize. But it's all done through the Holy Spirit. I'm teaching you the law, and I'm teaching you what the Word of God says, because that is the Word of God according to Federal Law 97-280. So if you have, now think about this, words, the Word of God in front of you, why is it not the most important thing? Your Congress thought it was at one time. Does that make any sense to you? The Founding Fathers thought it was. Your whole nation's principles are based on it. The Constitution is entirely based on it. We're being completely lied to by a monarchy of a few men and women at the very core leadership of the echelon at the top of the world, who are manipulating it all. And the name written on her forehead was Babylon the Great, a mother of prostitutes and the abominations of the earth. 3 different places, 3 different jurisdictions, 3 different things. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of God's holy people, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. This calls, in verse 9, this is Revelation 17, this calls for a mind with wisdom, with 7 heads and 7 hills from which the woman sits. Then the angel said to me, the waters you saw where the prostitute sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and language. In my opinion, there is only one nation that could possibly fit. Okay? The waters you saw for the prostitute, where the prostitute sits, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. Okay. The beast and the 10 horns that you saw will hate the prostitute. Who's the beast? Could it be the one world order? Who's the prostitute? Could it be America? They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it to their hearts to accomplish his purpose by agreeing to hand over the beast and the royal authority until God's words are fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. The woman who sits on 7 hills, who rules over the kings of the earth. I'm not going to say any more. Just going to read on. Revelations 18, the merchants of the earth will weep and will mourn over her, meaning the prostitute, because no one buys their cargoes anymore. Cargoes of gold, silver, precious stones, hats, pearls, fine linen, purple, scarlets, skateboards, bicycles, cars, motorcycles. You know what I'm saying. Okay? Verse 13, cargoes of cinnamon, spices, incense, myrrh, frankincense, and now we have modern day oils, of wine and olive oil, fine flour, wheat, cattle, sheep, horses, carriages. Human beings are sold as slaves. What was our country founded on? What are you today? They will say, you know what, and just let me stop right there in verse 13 of Revelations 18. You know, in foreign countries, they laugh at the United States citizens because they know who they are and they know who we aren't. And we profess our superiority and we profess who we say we are, but guess what? We're slaves if you're a U.S. citizen. They will say to you, you Christian nation, you longed for the fruit you longed for is gone from you. All your luxury, and here it is. Here's your sealer if you don't think that this is speaking of us, because no other country has this but us. All your luxury and splendor have vanished and never to be recovered. The merchants who sold these things and gained their wealth from you will stand far off, terrified at her torment. Whose torment? The prostitute. They will weep and mourn and cry out. Your merchants were the world's... Oh, I got to plug in. Hold on. Here we go. There we go. Your merchants were the world's important people. By your magic spell, all the nations were led astray. Let's call that the media. In her was found the blood of the prophets and God's holy people, of all who've been slaughtered on the earth. Okay. Let me just say before I move on to this slide, here is that great city Babylon that God is calling for his people to come out of. So they won't be partakers of her sins and receive of her plagues. So many times in scriptures when the word is used referencing this, such as talking about a church, that's a guess, or a structure of an organization that's under the color of a governing body, which could very well be a church, because there are a lot of these corporations, guys, like the United States corporations, registered as a religious organization. Did you know that? DunandBradstreet.com, Delaware.gov. Just go check it out. What people are not understanding is what is a church. I will say this, that the tentacles of Satan have gone all the way to the top of every religion and every denomination and every non-denomination in this world, and every governing body. There's always a bad guy at work in some type of scheme at the top of every organization. So without having complete understanding of what tentacles of church it could be, let's start with what the law book says. In the beginning with local government, since I was born on California, I'm going to tell you a story about a trip that I took to Sacramento. On my journey in 2012, I was in Sacramento. I went up to the archives of Sacramento, pulled up a copy of the 1849 Constitution and a copy of the 1879 Constitution. If you Google the 1849 Constitution, it says the original Constitution adopted November 1849 in advance of California attaining U.S. statehood in 1850. Here's what it says. It maintains jurisdiction along with the current Constitution, which was ratified May 7, 1879. The key words, hello? The key words, maintains jurisdiction with the current jurisdiction, which was ratified at a later date. So you got to, the point is we also talk about the fact that there's two constitutions. The Constitution was not amended. Okay, now look, listen, hear me out. This is key. This first Constitution, this one in 1849, was not amended, altered, changed, or ratified. It was 3 times, but it wasn't by the 1879. It sits and stands as active law. In fact, when you read the 1879 Constitution, it's just a document that also stands on its own. I don't want to make assumptions or assertions, okay? But this is mind-blowing information that needs to be understood. That means to comprehend. So I encourage people to look in their townships and their local counties and their states, lowercase states, uppercase, for supporting evidence as to the like that I have on California. Yes, on California, not in. Here's the most amazing part of it. The 1849 Constitution covers our land and its people, and the other covers territory and persons. Huh? Huh? I can hear all the voices right now coming through the phone. Some people are probably going, yeah, tell me more. Oh, I love it. And other guys are going, huh? Huh? That's cool. You're going to have to keep reading, keep understanding. The state of California, all caps, here it is different than the state of California, upper and lower case. I'm a California state citizen. I am doing my best to have allegiance only to the state of California and America. Now, if this isn't evidence of dual jurisdiction, I don't know what is. But it's also called de facto, which means corporate, not by right, not by law, and de jure, which means original lawful. I don't want to take the time to explain all that. I need you to look into that for yourself. Love this quote. Hitler said, if you tell a lie big enough and frequently enough, it will be believed. Hence, the United States is a democratic nation. Well, yes, it is a corporation, and it is democratic. We are waging war for the purposes of freedom and democracy. Well, the people in this country believe that we have a democratic nation because the leadership has said it for so long. We are being attacked by a foreign interest called Muslim extremists. Are we really? Or are we designing attacks? All these have been delivered so many times through media that it's beginning to sound like the truth. And Americans, which are now U.S. citizens, are sold out on a lie in so many different things. I'm not going to go into it. In the Living in the Private group, I published a multi-page report from developers, architects, government employees that all say that the 9/11 Commission report was an absolute lie. Trump has even said himself that it's a lie. Trump is, he's not my president, but I hope to God that he does deliver the republic back to the people. This guy you're looking at on the screen, Adolf Hitler, I'm going to tell you a quick story. Do you remember how there's people that will say the Jews never died, 6 million Jews never died? That's not what we're debating, okay? We're not debating whether they did or didn't. I'm not going to lessen what happened for some ideology as to whether it did or didn't. I know for a fact that Hitler, if you read enough, he burned down his own capital and he blamed it on the Jewish banksters. He enacted laws. He did this within a very short period of time. Guys, he went from a nation, and he came from nowhere. 15 years later, he was right here where you're looking. He came out of nowhere and ruling the world. He was like an antichrist beyond antichrist. I don't believe he died in the bunker. I don't want to get into that with you. It's not a conspiracy theory. I believe there's a lot of lies that we don't really know about or understand. Hitler is tied to, I don't want to get into that. Here's the point. If you look at what happened back then, here's the one point I want to make. What did he tell the Jews they had to do? He told them they must go register. What are they telling us today? That we must register. We must have a driver's license. We must have these things. We must have Obamacare. We must have. We must. Oh, it's a must. Then you read the fine print and you're like, oh, hell no. Well, first he told the Jews, you must register. The second thing is he identified them with a mark. He gave them a yellow 6-pointed star that they all had to wear. So publicly put them in check. They agreed they were in check. And what happened after they registered themselves to his regime? They were put on trains, and the 1 or 2 people that on every train load that would speak out would be instantly killed, and then the rest would fall in a line. Do you think, let me ask you this, do you think if all those people going on the trains and heading towards Auschwitz to be burned or to be gassed or to be, you think they would have, or starved, or that they were going to be separated from their kids, do you think they would have fought back right then? Well, here's what we did. It's called Operation Paperclip. We took his SS officers and we hired them. And they're called the CIA now. SS was developed, or CIA was developed out of SS. And we wanted to find out how he was able to do what he did in such a short period of time. Now this is developing into something bigger called the Communist Manifesto and the planks that require a Communist Manifesto. And I'm going to tell you right now, you don't want to be there. All 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto are complete in our nation. And whatever God is doing right now, I am in full support because He is doing something in the leadership. And He's giving us another shot, I think. And no, I didn't vote for him. No, I don't vote. I thought voting fraud was a fraud, and I do know it's a fraud. I honestly believe God intervened in this last election. This is my opinion. I'm entitled to it. You can have any opinion you want. I don't care. I didn't know what to do if the other one was going to get in the office. I was really worried, really worried. I'm still worried right now. I mean, Trump could be a wolf in sheep's clothes. I hope to God he's not. I hope he doesn't end up like this guy. But so far, he's making some claims that I think any American would want to be a part of. To vote in the United States, in my opinion, is to participate in the sins of the society and of what they have done in this world. Because we know the governments of this world are not now the government of God. We know that those elected into office will sin and do whatever is necessary to line their pockets. Most politicians enter into office very broke and leave. Most politicians, out of 500 congressmen, go look at their net worth, guys. This isn't me saying this. Go look at the numbers. How do you go into office as an employee of a corporation making a certain salary and coming out in the hundreds of millions of dollars? How do you do that? Do you know there's a lot of them that have done that? Lots. I mean lots. Okay. This is hearsay. So you can take it for what you want. I don't care. I'm going to read it verbatim. I once watched a documentary that showed a guy on how they would get congressmen to vote a certain way. He was on his deathbed and he was confessing. He said he was hired by the powers to be an enforcer and that he had remorse. He said that they would first ask the congressman to vote a certain way, and if the lobbyist didn't work, and then they would go back and make a demand, and then they would trap him in a sexual scandal with pictures. If that didn't work, they would threaten his life. If that didn't work, they would threaten his family. If that didn't work, they would take a life or use the scandal to remove them from office. Generally, all congressmen have been rewarded by pork belly projects and or cash. Speculation, hearsay. That's my guess. How do you know that? Well, go and look at how much money they have when they leave office. Go. It's not me. Honestly, they should literally, this batch of Congress, they should burn in hell for what they've passed against God's people. Guys, there's stuff in legislation that if you opened your eyes and read, you'd be like, what? And we're not really being ran by Congress anyway. If you knew the structure of this, the president of a corporation doesn't need the approval of anybody. But I'm going to show you some things about who this president answers to in law. He's not top dog, guys. President of this country is not top dog. Remember, it's a corporation. There's a CEO. There's a chairman of the board. There's a board of directors. It's a corporation. And it's your fault. I found this and I love this picture. It's your fault. It's your fault. Those who are voting are approving in the way the other who goes into or onto government and votes on your behalf, whether you agree with them or not. It's your fault. You know, I've seen what congressmen do in foreign nations, and I've seen how they react, and I've seen what they do to their lawmakers. They literally take them out and throw them in the trash can. I've seen it. It's hilarious. Watch out, Congress. I'm telling you. People are fed up. I'm so glad that there's somebody that's saying something different at the very least right now and seemingly signing executive orders that could change things. So, you know, I love this picture because I want one of these guys in my flesh, man. I want one of these rooms. Oh, I'd love one of these rooms. Hang out with my son, relax, chillax, watch the big screen, get 4 games going. Oh, man, I'm so in the flesh right now when I see this picture. As we sit in church and we recount all the things that governments do and make statements as to, you know, what should they do about certain instances, then we go home and we turn on the programming for that Sunday. You know, I like football. I can't help it. But instead of watching what is really going on in this world and really what they're doing in moving troops and equipment here on our land, I'm watching football. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I'm participating in just the complacency of this nation instead of standing up and saying, why are we killing these people in foreign countries? They didn't do anything to us. No, you did. Your commission report doesn't mean anything. You did. Who did this? Why aren't we able to control what's really happening? We're the masses, right? Why aren't we controlling what's happening? I know they want control. I got it. So I'm going to throw this in there. Why should you not hire an attorney? Well, should we participate in elections or become members of some political party to try to make things better for us? Only if it is the republic or de jure. What you don't know is there's a 4th branch of unspoken government called the Bar Association. They look at every piece of legislation and change what lawmakers write to be something completely different. I've personally been on interviews with the legislature for both Wisconsin, Nevada, and Utah, and Montana. I'm telling you, this is what they are saying, the state legislature. They'll submit law, and the bar attorneys will change it before it gets submitted for Congress. Hold on one sec. So, sorry, I had to give instructions to somebody to do something for me real quick. So I will explain this sometime later on de jure, okay? The question is, should we get wrapped up in political activities or in the world or in a church? And the answer is yes, we should be responsible. But in what? So how do you represent yourself in the public? Just look. Here it is, guys. Look over to the right. Okay, a client of an attorney, according to Corpus Juris Secundum SCJS, says a client is one who applies to a lawyer or counselor for advice and direction in a question of law, or commits his cause to his management in prosecuting a claim or defending against a suit, or one who retains the attorney is responsible to him for his fees, and whom the attorney is responsible to him for management of the suit. One who communicates facts to an attorney expecting professional advice. Clients are also called wards of the court in regard to the relationship with their attorney. Attorney's first duty is to the court and the public, not to the client. And wherever the duty to his client conflicts with one of those he owes, as an officer, meaning he works for, of the court, in the administration of justice, what is their definition of justice? The former must yield to the latter, meaning he must owe his duty to the court versus to the client. And let me explain something. When you're in a bankruptcy in the United States, HJR 192, all issues pertaining to you are to the court in the court's favor, because they're administrating a bankruptcy every time you walk into court. Really? Yeah, really. So an attorney's first duty is to whom? The court, the public, not to the client. The public's interest, not to the client. What's the public's interest? Who's to determine the public's interest? The state. Think about this. So every time, when you walk into court, we have more successes at HISAdvocates in a private side capacity helping people than any attorney does for their client. I guarantee that. And it should piss people off. But it's a fact. You will not get help with an attorney. I'm telling you. But there are some good things that do happen with attorneys. Now, I'm not saying this for any other reason than to help people understand you do not need a license to be married. Now, if you understood the above, every pastor is asking their parishioner to commit fraud on the marriage license application by telling the state they've been living together as husband and wife. Because as a Christian, you have not been living together as a husband and a wife, right? Right? Well, hopefully not. Hold on. My daughter is asking me to text my credit card info. That's comical. I love her. She's insane. Oh my gosh, like I would actually do that, right? You know, she would go shopping. I guarantee it. She would. Oh, Dad, I only spent $300. Oh, Dad, and she's a professional too. She'd be like her mom. I saved you $75 today. I love my family. It's hilarious. All right, so back to marriage. Listen. I agree that we are an unmarried man and an unmarried woman and have been living together as husband and wife. What does the word say? What does the Bible say? What does the law say? Well, this is what man's law says. It says they don't have authority to make you a husband and wife. What does the word say? This is proving that God's authority is number one, and that the authority that Jesus had when he came here and he told the Samaritan woman at the well, no, you haven't had one husband, you've had 5 husbands. So what is a husband? Intercourse. She didn't have 5 wedding ceremonies. She didn't sign 5 marriage licenses. She didn't get courted by 5 different guys who eventually had 5 private ceremonies. It was sex that made a marriage, made a husband and a wife come together. It was sex. That's what a husband and a wife is. And it's done privately between the union. The marriage is just a public expression of something that's been done in the private. Your word is your bond, remember? Well, it's not anymore. We have divorce, and it's huge. Divorce is rampant. I understand in some cases there might be a need. I also understand what the Word of God says about divorce. But here's the point. Here's the whole point. Man's law agrees with God's law. If it didn't, it wouldn't have wrote it up in affidavit this way. because they have to confirm that you're a husband and wife before they can give you a license to become married. You get it? Now go look up common law marriage. It has equal footing to a marriage in law. So through trickery, here it is. My parents were told they needed to have a license to be married. On that license, your name is spelled in all caps, and all caps is synonymous with the all caps on your birth certificate. Remember, it all starts with the birth certificate. That is the registered organization. That is in which all things. You need a birth certificate to go get your driver's license. You need a birth certificate to go get the passport. You need it to get your identification. The identification is the person. It's a byproduct of the person. Go look up the word identification. Okay. Now that you have a marriage license, well, let's talk about all caps first. All caps is a registered organization created by the state. That's why they use the all caps, is because it's, and we're going to talk about the law behind the all caps in a minute, because a lot of people say it doesn't make a difference. All caps, capitalization, capital C versus small c with citizen, capital S versus small s. Well, the title of United States of America is the same as the one on the Declaration. Caps don't make a difference. You're so full of crap. Even in your own law books, it says it makes a difference. And I'm going to prove it today. You're full of crap. You are full of it. Stop lying to the people. And people, stop lying to yourself and wake up, man. We're almost there. We just got to keep going. Okay, we can come back to being under God as a state citizen, which is synonymous with saying, you're my king in the spirit. You're my king on paper. You're my king as me being self-governed. Do you understand the word self-governed? It means you don't have any governing authority other than your king, which is God. So in law, a marriage license is equal footing to a marriage of common law. Men, through their pastors, were told by their senior pastors, so men, you and me, men and women, we're told through our pastors or through our teachers at school, the 501c3 teachers, that we need, who were told by their attorneys, because that's where it all stops. The attorneys have all the knowledge. The attorneys are the omnipotent lawmakers who know nothing about common or natural law, who are trained by the government, and that you must be a 501c3 recognized school or church, and that your parishioners better get a license by the state to have their marriage approved. Because if you don't do this, we're not going to honor you as a non-for-profit ministry or church. Really? Well, that's what the pastors are saying, right? Well, for 6,000 years, pastors, men and women, God's way was fine. Go hook up, make a commitment, have a formal ceremony. Doesn't matter. When you bed your wife, that's when she's your wife. Now, is your word your bond? That's a whole nother question. The marriage license, the birth certificates, the driver's license, the voter registrations, and the 100 other contracts, and the big one, residence, residential loan agreement, residential rental agreement, is what makes you an employee of the United States Corporation. Hence, I was born not a first-class citizen like people think. You were born a second class in law. I'll show you why. You were born a first class according to God, meaning you're a child of God, you're unalienable. But then man will consider you a second class because of residence. Instead of learning about it, schools don't teach you this. So I continue to enter into more contracts to substantiate what my parents started for me when they got married, making the product of the union. And that's what the marriage license agrees, that the product of the union belongs to the state. Your children? Why? They're not talking about your children. They're talking about the persons born from you, born from the capital, all capital letter contract that are producing these little capital letter contracts called in legis contracts, known as persons, known as registered organizations, known as trusts. All these big trusts are having these cute little baby trusts. Okay, and those baby trusts are owned by the United States. Hence, you as a baby, cute little baby trust became the surety for the United States corporation. At first, I did not believe it. It was not until I learned as a young lad that my driving practices, yeah, I was being paid to drive because that's what driving means. My driving practices led me into trouble with the local police, and ultimately I spent a ton of money and a ton of my time in jail for driving infractions. I remember the judge saying to me one time, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And I'm like, what? What? You want to be judge, you commissioner? I was so mad at him. I'm like, how am I supposed to know the law? I'm not an attorney. See, they find some relevance of self-righteousness by telling me that. Are you serious? I was a kid. It hit me like a ton of bricks, sitting in a cell, eating garbage, defending myself. Yeah, I had to defend myself. That I'm not free. I'm not an American. I'm not free. United States citizens, this isn't freedom. This isn't land of the free. It became a joke to me at that time because jail sucks. Did I deserve jail for driving on a suspended license 100 days of my life? Really? I did? Really? Gee. Driving in law, guys, is a paid service. Go look it up. Do I have a driver's license? Yeah, I do. But I've completely made me the trustee of the trust. Meaning, I am not going to accept the liability as the trust, but I'm going to be the overseer of it. And I got to know when, where, and how. So there's no way, guys, that you can shepherdize every case that I'm about to bring in. Be skeptical. Think of me and what I'm saying is not truthful, because I want you to look into what I'm saying. I want you to do your own research. I want you to find out all this information for yourself. Okay? Because you're going to get something out of what we're doing. There's so many citizens right now doing research on this topic. This is going to be awesome. Before the American Revolution, the King of England owned all the land in its colonies. Now, the inhabitants of the colonies were his subjects. When the war was over, the king signed a treaty of peace. And in that treaty, he said that the land in the former colonies were owned by the people, and all the sovereign powers that he held in the colonies were transferred. Think about that. Not to the government of the colonies, but to the people of the colonies. This made all the citizens of the colonies sovereigns. This has never happened before or since in any other country. In other countries, the governments or government are sovereign. It makes laws for its subject citizens. And notice subject citizens was found only in the 14th Amendment. And it gives them their rights. In the United States, we the people were the sovereigns. The people were endowed by their creator, not by a corporate fiction piece of paper known as the United States, with certain rights, and the government was instituted to secure those rights through the Constitution. We, the people, gave a portion of our sovereignty to the state through the Constitution. But we were also given the Bill of Rights. And as a United States citizen, you do not have access to the Bill of Rights. Period. The 73rd Congress says that they own all the property, including my children or persons of persons. If I don't pay my property tax to the government, we'll go to court and remove me from it, just as the courts would remove you from an apartment if you didn't pay the rent. Do you really own the land if it has a legal description on the document that you signed with your loan documents? The answer is no. Legal description is different than metes and bounds. Legal description is territory. Metes and bounds is land. I'm a broker in real estate, man. I know this stuff. I've personally funded over 700 loans. Personally, corporately, 4,000 to 5,000 loans. I don't know. I have had the best training from the best banks. I have been a compliance auditor. I've had my own escrow companies, my own lending companies. Guys, I'm telling you, I know recording. One of the questions on the broker examination, do you need to record a property in the county recording? The answer is no. What does recordation of the property do? Well, you receive a benefit. What? Water, trash, and a tax bill. That's your benefit. You get to say you're a part of a township or a city. What's a city? It's a municipal corporation. Could the King of England have the land taken from you if you did not pay a tax? The answer is yes. So long as I don't cause injury to someone's person or property or defraud them, shouldn't I, as a sovereign state citizen, have the right to do anything I want? Because that's what a republic is. Right? I'm not hearing everybody. That's what it is. So did you know in the 73rd Congress, all property in the state, and what's in the state? In the territory, belonging to them. Individual so-called ownership is only by virtue of government, i.e. the law amounting to a mere user, and the use must be in accordance with law and subject to the necessities of the state. We must also comprehend the difference between legal and lawful. Legal is like a false representation of law. It is a mere facsimile, a pretend, a look-alike, appearing to be law but isn't. Guys, you got to get the law dictionaries because they're fun to look at. We're going to look at a few words today. All right. So, if you weren't a state citizen, the government shouldn't have any financial interest on your land. Since you don't know the law, you don't know that you have no choice to not record your land purchase in the county recorder. Well, that's not true. You don't have to. Instead, you get into debt. Sin, you go out and take a loan. But do you really get into debt when you take a loan? Do you? What is a contract versus a trust indenture? Contract, offer, acceptance, consideration, performance, full disclosure. That's the elements of a contract. And what are you doing in a loan? Well, you have a trustor, right? Trustee, right? Beneficiary. What's that? It's called a trust. You're signing the signature on a loan. So you're signing that you are the trustee and they are the beneficiary. And they cash your check. You're like, what? What did he just say? They cash your damn check, man. That's what your note is. It's a check. Guys, look. We found the patents. We can show unequivocally. It's a check. They're prepaid on all the interest and all the principal of your quote-unquote loan. Is it fraud in the factum, meaning fraud from the beginning, what they're doing? Yes. They can't do it, but they do it. Why? Because if you knew the truth, everybody would be debt-free. Because they're using your birth certificates. Here it is. They're using your birth certificates and the money that's generated from them because it's HJR 192. The corporation known as the United States is in bankruptcy. They cannot create more debt, period. So they can only add assets to. I didn't say the states were in bankruptcy. The United States is in a foreign war with the states through the Trading with the Enemy Act. The United States citizen is a enemy combatant and belligerent to the United States in the Trading with the Enemy Act. You're a belligerent. You're an enemy combatant. And they take your signature, they go and they not just get prepaid on it, they monetize it. So they're paid over and over and over and over through mortgage-backed securities that are sliced up into tranches. Guys, look, all the debt's been paid. If the debt's been paid, it's been paid, right? Let me say it to this way. Okay. My mom gives me a loan of $100. My dad, he doesn't buy the rights to the loan. He just pays the debt. Because that's what happens when you have investors who are putting money into the tranche to get a return on their funds that are being invested in. They're basically putting money in to pay the debt. Debt's prepaid. Debt's prepaid from the Department of Treasury through the Federal Reserve window at the signing of the loan after about 3 to 7 days. The lender signs the loan. I'm going into this because it's important that you understand debt. You don't know who you are. You don't have a clue of who you are. But you are saying that you're the surety against it. And they're purposely making the United States bleed it out dry and responsible for the debt. And the debt of the United States and the United States citizens that has gone around the world making a muck, it's going to get turned on us, watch. It's going to get turned on the people that are responsible for it. We can't just keep living out this dream. Did you guys know this? The term president means the president of the United States, acting through the assistant to the president for Homeland Security. Okay, what are those words defined as? Here's what it's defined as. President works for the assistant to the president of Homeland Security. Let me ask you a question. You know Trump. He's a little arrogant. Whatever. He's a good businessman. But he's also a harsh businessman. He's also a businessman that makes money, and people lose their millions when he does deals. Period. So he's a better businessman than them, or he takes people down at their lowest, or. He's not a perfect man. Nobody is. You know, you who doesn't have sin, throw the first stone. Okay? He's not perfect. Here's the point. Do you think Trump's walking into office right now? Yeah, I'm the toughest, biggest, strongest man in the world now. I mean, that's probably where his mindset is. He's probably trying to think, how do I take care of the American people at the same time, and also, can I make more money? I guarantee it. Everybody does. I mean, and they don't have this mindset of necessarily public servant. I hope to God he does. I really do. But according to what's happened in the past, that's not what's happened. Now, do you think he knows this? Title 8, 1701, Section 6. That he is to act through Homeland Security. You all know Homeland Security was started and every other agency fell underneath Homeland Security. You all knew that, right? Well, this is proof. So do you think Donald Trump's going to go to the Homeland Security and say, yes, sir? I think we're going to bring back, I hope to God he has the earnings enough to write an executive order because he knows the people are behind it to do away with crap like this. I really do. All right. We're going to start in cases. We're going to take an early lunch, and we'll come back at about, let's say 1:45. So it's about an hour and 15 minutes from now, because I don't want to get into cases because they work together so that you can start understanding. It's going to get your blood pumping. But let's take a break right now for lunch, and I will see you at it's 12:36 Pacific. I will see you at 1:45. Is that it? Yeah, 1 hour. 1 hour from now. Just do it 1 hour from now. Thank you, guys. God bless. We'll see you in an hour. All right, somebody give me a shout out. Let me know that you can hear me. Thanks, Mike. I'm going to start about 2 minutes. Thanks, Francis, Tony, Inez. About a minute. Okay, so I got a full screen there. Thanks, Rita. Thanks, Arthur. All right, guys, here we go. So, look, you got to learn to love law. You got to learn to love God's law. You got to learn to get your mind wrapped around it and just do it, because there's so much good in it, and there's also so much despair. But I'm going to tell you right now, whatever Congress does in or at law, they always have a remedy for themselves, or always have a remedy for the people. What they impose, they must have a remedy for. Now, I know that there's a lot of public debate, but I'm going to tell you that's one of the ones that there really is no public debate over. So let's get ready. We're just going to read some. I'm going to try to press this webinar to get done early today. I mean, nobody wants to be in a webinar, so long as you know properly how I filled out my application for a passport. I'm actually going to show you certified copies and all that stuff. But I want you guys to get your mind wrapped around the law as it pertains to cases, and what you have an opportunity for you yourselves. And so I'm going to be reading a lot of this stuff as we're going, so there's no ambiguity in what you're reading. But the lengthy insular, like I said, I'm not learned in the law, were settled in 1901 when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled DeLama versus Bidwell and Downs versus Bidwell. In the latter, Justice Harlan dissented with the following words: "The idea prevails with some. Indeed, it found an expression in arguments at the bar." What's the bar? "That we have in this country substantially, practically two national governments, one to be maintained under the Constitution with all its restrictions, and the other to be maintained by Congress, and outside and independently of that instrument by exercising such powers as other nations of the earth are accustomed to exercise." Okay, I would like to say I have not shepherdized all of these cases, and I have not looked at the actual case law in some of these cases. So what shepherdized means is I don't know if they've been overturned, but the point is, can you all hear me? Everybody can hear me. I got a guy that just said he couldn't hear. Can't hear. Hold on. Tell me if you guys can hear me. I'll make sure. I can hear. All right. Yes, yes. All right. So you got to dial in, or you got to download the software. That's all I can tell you right now. I will tell you guys, this is being recorded. So again, don't worry about whether you can absolutely hear it this time. I meant to say that's fine. So, all right, next case. I'm not going to read the cases. We're going to try to sub through it. Reaffirm that the United States under 432 of the Constitution has exclusive power over the territories outside of the Union States. It is in no way bound in its municipal laws by what Jefferson called the chains of the Constitution. Criminal jurisdiction of the federal courts is restricted. Now listen to me, guys. This is a great one. Is restricted to the federal reservations over which the federal government has exclusive jurisdiction, as well as to the forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. I'm trying to read the stuff. Then you got to turn it up or something, guys. Hold on, I'm going to try to get the mic up a little closer. How do I sound better now, Skip? Yes, yes. Okay, good. All right, criminal jurisdiction of the federal courts, guys. Now look, where does it give them a jurisdiction over where they got right now? It says, or other needful buildings. Huh. So that is going to be a big one as we're talking about federal territory, because territory is a big word. Here we go. It is autonomous within the areas over which it has complete legislative jurisdiction. The District, D.C., Guam, and other federal territorial states, or territorial states. What is that? What's territorial state? And enclaves, etc. The citizens of the United States residing therein are given civil rights. i.e. statutory, and therefore retractable privileges. They do not have unalienable rights of the state citizens. In brief, Daniel Webster was ultimately ruled to be right. The Constitution was made for the states and not the territories. So now, just stop right there for a second. They have an overlay of territories, and if you just Google federal territory in the United States, you're going to see a huge area on the West Coast is covered by federal territory versus the East Coast, which is an interesting thought as to why. But that is territory; it's above the land, and it's a perception. So you can leave the land and you can contract and come into territory through contractual law. And in the Constitution, this is something to get your minds wrapped around. As a state citizen, the Constitution does apply to them. The Bill of Rights does apply to you. But it is the supreme law of the land, a contract. You have an unalienable right to contract privately with anybody you want. This includes a corporation. So 2 years after the 14th Amendment was amended to the Constitution and said to be ratified, this is a very interesting decision promulgated by the California Supreme Court. I have no doubt that those born in the territories or in the District of Columbia are so far citizens as to entitle them to the protection guaranteed to the citizens of the United States in the Constitution and to the shield of nationality abroad. But when it is evident that they have not the political rights which are vested in the citizens of the states, okay, they are not constituents of any community in which is vested in any sovereign power of government, meaning the citizens of states, because they're considering the United States the sovereign power of government instead of the people. Their position partakes more in the character of subjects than citizens. They are subject to the laws of the federal United States, meaning citizens of the United States, but have no voice in its management. If they are allowed to make laws, the validity of these laws is derived from the sanction of government in which they are not represented. Merely citizenship that they may have, but political rights of citizens they cannot enjoy until they are organized into a state and admitted into the Union. That's serious, man. Of course, the creation of citizens of the United States dates back to July 9th, 1868. Okay. Now look, this is a case law and this is an opinion of a judge, so okay. Why did he pick 1868? Well, when the 14th article of amendment was fraudulently declared to be ratified, please allow for me to remind you of the oft-quoted statement by Judge Elliott of the Utah Supreme Court. I cannot believe that any court in full possession of its faculties can honestly hold that the amendment was properly approved and ratified or adopted. State Phillips Pacific Reporter, 2nd Series. That's pretty interesting. That's recent, 1975. There's a lot of people that don't think that the 14th Amendment was ever properly ratified. And whether you do or not, it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter. The whole Federal Reserve banking system was not properly ratified. I don't know if you understand how the Federal Reserve System came about, but you got to figure that out, because it was not just done secretly, but they held Congress with only 3 members of Congress right at Christmas. And 2 voted yes and 1 voted no, and guess what? They had a majority. That is a fact, Jack, that the Federal Reserve was adopted for the entire world based on 2 men. Isn't that crazy? Talk about a sneak. Now, was it properly ratified? That's a whole different thing. Did the governors approve? That's a whole different thing. So I must point out that the wording of the 14th Amendment reveals something very important, for it speaks of citizens of the United States and citizens of the state where they reside. Reside is different than resident, but we'll talk about that. This is the first time that a citizen was not capitalized, henceforth, meaning the 14th Amendment. The word citizen was lowercase. Henceforth, lowercase usage indicates a federal government subject, termed a U.S. citizen, not to be noted a citizen of any land or country, but as the courts have ruled of a government, U.S. citizens are government citizens, government employees, which, as you will see, is exceedingly significant. State citizens, are free, men and women, on the land. The first clause of the 14th Amendment of the Federal Constitution creates two classes, one of the United States and the other of the state. Corey versus Carter. That's a big one. There are then two classes of citizens, one of the United States and one of the state. One class of citizenship may exist in a person without the other. As the case of a resident of the District of Columbia, Gardena Board of Registers of Jeffrey County. I said I wasn't going to read that. Meaning I wasn't going to read the cases, the actual case names. In the second sentence of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, the United States says, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunity of the citizens of the United States. 7 years later, the Supreme Court made the distinction crystal clear. We have in our political system a government of the United States and a government of each of the several states. Each one of these governments is distinct from the others, and each has citizens of its own who owe, here's the word, guys, it allegiance. It's just like God. All God wants is us to believe and make our allegiance to serve Him. That's it. That's all God wants. And man has tried to make itself God through corporations pretending to be government. And so they've worked it out into the law that the word allegiance is the most important thing. I pledge allegiance to the flag. And the point is you are aligning yourself, and you could disalign yourself, and we're going to talk about that today and what people are doing in this country to remove. U.S. versus Cruikshank, or Cruikshank, is probably one of the most important cases we have in our country because it goes on and on and on. That's just one thing. In 1945, the Supreme Court settled this once and for all, and this is a big case, but this is the case that I believe is overturned. But it doesn't matter because I don't know how they could overturn this. Here, watch this, because you got to understand Hooven versus Allison and Downs versus Bidwell. Indeed, saying that they wouldn't deal with it again. Henceforth, it must be simple and given judicial notice. They upheld the Downs versus Bidwell case, but now gave three meanings to the term United States. This, guys, is found in Black's Law 5th edition. Okay, Black's Law 5th edition. So a judge or judges ruled that this was the definition for the United States. It will be designated a territory over which the sovereignty of the corporate United States extends. Now, they are the sovereign. They extend over a territory as granted to this federal agency, i.e. creation of the Union of the States under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2 of their Constitution for the United States of America. The other two meanings designated are nation among the family of nations, as the UN and the collective names of the states united by and under the Constitution, in this case, not including the District of Columbia. In other words, the states united, as it was worded in people versus whatever, especially the last of these three is often referred to as the United States of America. The state citizen, also called de jure citizen, is an individual whose unalienable natural rights are recognized, secured, and protected by his or her state constitution against the state actions and against the federal intrusion by the Constitution for the United States of America. Okay, what is the name of the Constitution? Is it for of? Because it says both. It says for in the preamble, and it says of at the top. I want you to think about that for a while. A federal citizen, I know, guys, boring, but maybe some of you are going, no, this isn't boring. And by the way, guys, I did not include 100 cases. I just can't get through them all today. I'm trying to get through to the point in which I train you on how to do a passport, but this is all foundational stuff. And so I didn't include a lot of cases, and this is going to be exciting stuff for you guys when you actually start breaking down and reading them all. A federal citizen, also called a 14th Amendment citizen, is a citizen of the United States, a U.S. citizen, a citizen of the District of Columbia, an employee of the corporation known as the United States, blah, 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 has civil rights that are almost equal to natural rights that a state citizen has. I say almost because civil rights are created by Congress and can be taken away by Congress. Federal citizens are subjects of Congress under their protection as a what? Okay, guys, here you go. What is the word that associates you as being a subclass citizen through contract? And it's that you are a resident of a state. A person enfranchised to the federal government, an incorporated United States defined Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, da-da-da-da. The individual states may not deny to these persons any federal privileges, persons, registered organizations, persons, any privileges or immunities that Congress has granted them. This specific class of citizen is a federal citizen under admiralty law, international law. As such, they do not have unalienable common rights recognized, secured, protected in the constitutions of the states or of the Constitution for the United States of America, such as allodial, absolute rights to property. And I always sub out, even though they use property even in the old days, I sub out property for land or dirt or earth or soil or ground. And that's the proper terminology. When you're buying something, do not buy it because you're not going to be able to go out and get a loan for land. You can go out, you can, but you're going to have hard money rates. You can't go get a conforming loan through the government for land. You can for property, and there's a difference. So we'll talk about that some other day. A federal citizen is a taxable entity like a corporation and is subject to pay an excise tax for the privileges that Congress has granted him or her. The rights that most people believe they have are not natural rights, but civil rights. Guys, did you think you had, people are out there protesting for their civil rights because media talks. That's it. Civil, 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 civil. What is more important? Civilian granted rights by members of Congress who are greasing their pockets and stealing the money from the state treasuries, or God-given unalienable rights, natural rights? Go look them up, because civil rights, you don't want civil rights. You shouldn't be up there, I got Constitution, and that's another thing. Don't stand in court ever and say, you're denying me my constitutional rights. It says you're ignorant, okay? And I actually didn't know that until 8 years ago when somebody explained, you're ignorant. I've been called that. And I'm sure I'll get called that again. It's okay. I pray for those people too. The point is, I am ignorant about a lot of things. We all are, and we got to learn. But we shouldn't be saying, I got constitutional rights standing in court. You don't have them. Constitution isn't for you. It's for the government. It's for, and they weren't even called the government back then, per se. They were called public servants. It's for them who are serving you, the people, which are self-governed, that have God-given unalienable rights that you invoke whenever you want, wherever you want, however you want. And yes, they do push back. If you accept any benefit from the federal government, you claim a civil right. You're making an adhesion contract with the federal government. You may not be aware of any adhesion contracts, but the courts are. And the other aspect of such a contract that will allow that is that you will obey every statute that Congress passes. Remember the driver's license? We talked about it. Driver's license says, I agree I'm in the United States under federal jurisdiction. It's a contract. You're privately contracting. State citizens cannot be subjected to any jurisdiction of law outside. Great, forgot to turn off my phone. Give me just a sec. No audio on telephone. Only online. Hold on. Hold on. One moment, please. The only way that I could possibly get audio on the telephone is if I were to close this meeting down and start it up again. I don't know what to tell you, Vital. Phone audio is okay. I got from another guy. Skip says not true. Vital, You're wasting my time, buddy. Vital, good now. Good now. Just called in. Yeah, Vital. Hey, dude, I'm coming. I'm wherever you are, Vital. I'm coming. I'm coming, buddy. I'm gonna wax that big bald head of yours. All right, man. I love you, buddy. Oh man, you got me off track. Where was I? Right there. Vital. All right. So, totally off track. I'll start in the second one. Federal citizens are presumed to be operating in the jurisdiction of commercial law because that is the jurisdiction of their creator, Congress. This is evidenced by the various contracts that use negotiable instruments. And this is funny. Listen to this. I thought this was great. All of them are products of international law or commercial law, meaning what? Negotiable instruments. Part of Uniform Commercial Code, UCC. Under common law, your intent is important in a court of contract or commercial law under UCC. The only thing that matters is that you live up to the letter of the contract because you have adhesion contracts with Congress. You cannot use the Constitution or Bill of Rights as your defense because it's irrelevant to the contract. As stated previously, the contract says you'll obey every statute passed from Congress. The federal citizen does not have access to common law or the Bill of Rights. So there's a question, guys. If I was born on one of these several states, the California Republic, why am I not a state citizen? Well, the answer is, number one, I am. Number two, I am. Number three, I'm trying always to perfect it. The answer is that you could have been born in a state, but unknowingly through your parents, you gave up the right and became federal citizens. Now, remember the marriage license? Remember how you and your wife had conjoined and became husband and wife? Then you guys placed that marriage covenant that was under God and you gave it to man under the state. And you said, state, for the privilege of recognition of my marriage under God, I'm begging you for a license. And literally take my blood too, by the way. I mean, that's what you're doing. And so for that, the product of the union, remember we had a little funny thing before where you're the big trust, meaning the conjoining of the two trusts became one and Legis Trust, and then they had little trusts, little baby trusts, and they became, federal employees as well. The product of the union belongs to the state. Well, some of the benefits that you receive, Social Security number, you receive mail that's sent to the state, received through zip codes. You have FDI insurance on the money that you've been given back for your deposits. You're given credit, and it's insured. And they're using Federal Reserve notes without protest. This sounds crazy, but why would you give your God-given birthrights for benefits like these? It is debatable. Now listen to me. It is debatable that if you have a Social Security number that you are not a state citizen. It's debatable. Because I don't have a Social Security number, guys. Let me explain something to you. It's written on the dang card. Read your cards. They own the card. It's theirs. The state owns the birth certificate because you never claimed it. The state owns the product. Okay? The state owns your wealth. The state, if you're a federal employee, they own it all. So when people say that I have a driver's license or I have a Social Security card, my question is, who do you say that you are? What do you hold your allegiance to? What is it? Are you a United States citizen or are you a State of the Union citizen? Do you understand what the citizen actually is? United States citizen is a registered organization, in my opinion, known as your birth certificate. Period. If I had known that applying for an SSN number, Social Security number, that would affect my citizenship status, it doesn't affect your citizenship status. It makes a contract that you're obliged to. This is where everybody gets it wrong. You're agreeing to terms that you now need to agree to. It's not, they call it a subclass or subform of citizenship, but it's just by contract. So uncontract or recontract. I would have applied differently at the age of 13 I'll tell you that right now if I'd have known what I know now regarding that Social Security number. I'm going to show you something how it doesn't matter. And I'll show it to you in a minute in law, where you can remove yourself from the Social Security number and retain all your benefits in their law. And they're going to require that you fill a form out, and you're going to have to do it in your way to retain all your rights. Now, get prepared right now by ordering certified copies of your SS5. SS5 is your application of your Social Security. It comes really beautifully red ribboned and stamped with, I mean, it's gorgeous. It's impressive. And you want to get original copies of your application, because if you get a certified original copy of your application, you can then remove your signature from it and retain the benefits from it according to their own statute. Okay, this one got my goat. Okay, remember, let's go back to California. 2 constitutions. Okay. 1 constitution with a lowercase state, 1 constitution with an all-cap state. It doesn't matter, Kelby. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it does, according to Black's 8th of the definition of state. And this is right along the line of what we're talking about. We're talking about the lowercase is a political system, a body of people who are politically organized. It's a political relationship. The system of rules which jurisdiction and authority are exercised over such a body of people. Okay? The all caps definition, hear me out. A state, all capitalized, is a community of persons. This is saying unequivocally in law, the all caps definition of the state of California or the United States of America, all caps, is a community of persons living with certain limits within certain limits of territory under a permanent organization which aims to secure the prevalence of justice. Go look up that word. By self-imposed law. That is a mouthful. Limits of territory of a body or a community of persons. Notice this is in the same chapter. Why does one say people and one say persons? Why say body politic and one say community? Why does one say within jurisdiction and one say territory? Remember, the original state of California Constitution still is active, still is lawful, never set aside. I am a part of a body of people politically organized. People of a state are entitled to all the rights of which formerly belonged to the king by prerogative. Lansing versus Smith. I've personally checked this one out. At the time of the Revolution, the sovereignty devolved on the people, and they are truly the sovereigns of the country, but they are sovereigns without subjects and have none to govern but themselves. The citizens of America are equal as fellow citizens and joint tenants in the sovereignty. Chisholm versus Georgia. That's one of the old ones, 1793. As a general rule, but it doesn't matter. It still has. That case has been shepherdized. That's one of the first ones I learned like 8 years ago. As a general rule, men have natural right to do anything which their inclinations may suggest, if it be not evil in itself, in no way impairs the rights of others. Guys, look, I'm going to tell you right now, if you go out and you commit a crime, you should be punished. We don't believe that we are lawless. We are saying God is our king. We are saying we are self-governed. We are under self-control. We're only abiding in all of these laws in a de jure original under a constitution that has not been set aside, that is still active law, that was not remanded by a new constitution, they can say whatever they want. The facts are the facts. Isn't it funny? I look at a baby, I see blonde hair or bald. My wife looks at a baby, she sees a beautiful baby, blue eyes, and everything else that I didn't see. If you go and watch, and I'm going to tell you, there's a thing called, there's a show on Netflix, and you all need to watch it. I think it's called Mind Games or something to that effect. I was blown away by what our mind actually does. We see things that aren't there, and it's proven in this show. And I'm amazed at how powerful our mind is and what our mind does and what our eyes do and how we see and we read things. The point is you don't think that these billionaires and trillionaires have figured out how to play us using television? Using all this stuff, the things that, and it impairs us to believe that we're subjects, and it impairs us to not step out. I mean, I can't tell you, anybody I talk to, I'm going to tell you a quick story. This is important. Just don't look at the screen, listen to my voice for a sec. This is important. I talked about it on a call or show or whatever the other day. I was at a Christian friend's birthday party, and I got tired of hearing the garbage between 8 guys sitting around the fire. I really got tired of it, and I let them have it. Next thing you know, I was called. They asked the question, "Do you pay taxes?" And I looked at them. I said, "Am I required to?" And they said, "Yeah, of course." And I said, "Really?" And I said, "Okay, I pay all lawful taxes." And they kind of laughed about that. And I said, no, seriously. I probably still pay more taxes than you because I buy a lot more than you. But that's not my point. And I said, I am not a United States citizen. Am I required to pay the United States taxes? And they all looked at each other. I said, no, you're so full of crap. I said, no, you're a United States citizen. I said, no, I'm not. I'm an American. I'm a State of the Union citizen. I'm not a United States citizen. Am I required to pay taxes? He said, of course. And I said, well, I haven't used my social in 10 years. How would they contract with me then? And they said, what are you talking about? You haven't used your social. You have to use your social. And I said, no. Render to Caesar's what is Caesar's. Render to God what is God's. No, you do not have to. And I blew them out of the water. But it got to this point, and it's not guys, this isn't about evading taxes. This is about your freedom. This is about life under God. This is about empowering people with a different mindset of not being the surety for the corporation. This is so much bigger. Okay? Taxes, if you're a United States citizen, you better pay them. If you've got a W-4 paying job, you better pay them. Just because you change your status on your passport and you still have a job with a W-4, W-2, or 1099, forget it. You still owe. You still owe. Because you keep signing off. Read it. I am a United States citizen, a United States person, and under the pains and penalties of perjury, blah, blah, blah. You're only as good as your latest contract. You're only as good as your latest contract. So how can you live at your job, and there's ways to prove that you're pulling away from all that. There's ways to assign yourself as a no social, but you got to properly do things. I'm not going to get into all that on this conversation. This conversation today is about how to start the journey. And the number one spot is the passport. So listen, this is not a means to hurt people. This is not a means to get out of paying your taxes. This is a means of switching jurisdictions from underneath man to being aligned with God. Because man here in this country has turned back into a tyrant. Period. And we have that right because the jurisdiction exists. The United States government is a foreign corporation with respect to a lowercase state, Merriam. Also affirmed. Corpus Juris Secundum, section blah, 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 United States Code, section 297, divides several states of the Union as being freely associated compact states. And subsection A then refers to these freely associated compact states as being countries in subsection B. Did you know that the individual states were considered to be foreign countries to the United States and to each other? Well, go back up to Merriam. Read that first one again. The United States government is a foreign corporation with respect to a state. In 1818, the Supreme Court stated that in the United States of America, there are two separated and distinct jurisdictions, such being the jurisdiction of states with their own state boundaries and the other being federal jurisdictions, the United States, which is limited to the District of Columbia. The U.S. territories and federal enclaves within the states under Article 1, Section 8, Clause A, blah, blah, blah. When Congress is operating in its exclusive jurisdiction over the District of Columbia, the territories and enclaves, it is important to remember that it has full authority to enact legislation as private acts pertaining to its boundaries, territory. And it's not a state of the Union of States because it exists solely by virtue of the compact Constitution that it created. The Constitution does not say that the D.C. must guarantee a Republican form of government to its own subject citizens within territories. We are a republic. Real liberty is never found in despotism or in the extremes of democracy. Why is it that our modern day corporate democratic presidents are not saying this? Because the United States is a democracy one step shy of being a communist state. So far, I have not given any proof that the government actually recognizes two distinct classes of citizens. Oh, wait a minute, I have. I'll give you some more. In 1865, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery and involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime. The Supreme Court ruled that the 13th Amendment operated to free former slaves and prohibit slavery, but in no way conferred citizenship to the former slaves or to those of races other than white, because the founders of the Constitution were all of the white race. Now listen to me. This is important to understand. Even the Declaration, or if the Constitution did not include blacks or reds or yellows, but just white men, or didn't include women to vote, let me explain something to you. You have God-given, unalienable rights, and it doesn't matter what men says. It doesn't. If you are a part of that society, then you must be obedient to that society. If you are a part of a different society, you must be obedient to that. I'm going to ask you one question, and it's going to be very serious. Go look up the definition of an alien, especially non-resident alien. Why is it that we have so much crime from the undocumented, they call them undocumented workers now, and they've changed it, okay? They've changed it because aliens, quote unquote, Hispanics or any of that of any other country that come here undocumented and make it to our land protects them like you wouldn't believe, just as it did when they first started coming here 200 years ago. If they don't have documentation and they commit a crime, they cannot be charged. They can just be deported. The federal government does not have the authority, period, to charge them. So let's read on. The federal government did not have the authority to determine former this confers what I'm saying. Excuse me, my voice. Did not have the authority to determine if former slaves could become a citizen of one of these several states, because the 9th and 10th Amendments said that the power is not granted specifically to the federal government by the Constitution, are reserved to the states or to the people. History shows that the Pennsylvania Commonwealth and the New York State were nationalizing blacks as state citizens. In other states, blacks were not citizens and therefore did not have standing in any court. The answer to the problem was the 14th Amendment, quote unquote. That's what they want you to believe. The 14th Amendment used the term citizen of the United States. These courts have ruled the means of federal citizenship, which means to the city citizen of the District of Columbia. Since the federal government did not step in and tell Pennsylvania or New York that it couldn't make state citizens out of former black slaves, an argument could be made that the 14th Amendment was written primarily to afford citizenship voluntarily to those of the black race that were recently freed by the 13th Amendment, slaughterhouse cases, and did not include Indians and other not born in and subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Thus, the amendment recognized that an individual can be a citizen in one of those several states without being a citizen of the United States. Look at the quotations. That includes all men. Like I said, all men are created equal. Okay. Slaughterhouse cases, U.S. versus Cruikshank. I don't know if I got that right. To reinstate the slaughterhouse cases, supra, the court said it is quite clear then that there is a citizenship of the United States and a citizenship of the state, which are distinct from each other and which depend upon different characteristics or circumstances or adhesion contracts. Okay, individual. Of the privileges and immunities of the citizens of the United States and of the privileges and immunities of the citizen of the state and what they respectively are, we will presently consider, but we wish to state here that there is only the former which are placed by this clause. I'm getting blind. Need some water too. Clause under the protection of the federal Constitution, and the latter, whatever they may be, are not intended to have any additional protection by this paragraph of the amendment. All right. The court has also ruled that the term United States is a metaphor, and that the term United States may be used in one of the several senses. It may be merely the name of a sovereign occupying the position analogous to the sovereigns. Remember, this is Hooven versus Allison. This is a better way to say it without all the garbage in between. I want to read it again. It may be merely the name of a sovereign occupying the position analogous to that of sovereign in a family of nations. That is the United States Corporation in the District of Columbia. It may designate territory over which sovereignty of the United States extends. That is also the United States Corporation over territory. Or it may be the collective name of the states. The collective name of the states. Remember, united was an adjective describing the jurisdictions of the states, which are united by and under the Constitution. That's your big case. That was also, I believe, shepherdized, and it was overturned by an appellate court, 3-judge panel. Go figure. But this is the case that I believe is in Black's 5th and then removed. Why do they want to remove this knowledge, guys? It's so well founded in the law. Why do they want to remove it? Did the courts really say that someone could be a state or citizen of a state without being a citizen of the United States? Yes, they did. It is true. The cases cited above are old, some over 100 years old. None of these cases have ever been overturned by a more recent decision, so they are valid. That's an incorrect statement. I did find 2 of them on last minute, and I didn't correct that were changed. So that's why I made a disclosure. You know, you got to go, think of me as somebody that's not fully learned in the law, and you got to investigate this stuff for yourself. You got the names, go out and read them. A more recent case is blah, 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 which states both before and after the 14th Amendment to be to the federal Constitution has not been necessary for a person to be a citizen of the United States in order to be a citizen of the state, citing, again, U.S. versus Cruikshank. Hence, black, white, red, yellow, we all have a right to be under God as an unalienable right with full rights as a republic body, self-governed so long as we don't hurt anybody else, which is called a state citizen. The courts presume that you are a federal citizen without even telling you that there's a difference of classes of citizens. It's up to you to dispute this. Unless a defendant can prove he is not a citizen of the United States, the IRS has a right to inquire and determine tax liability. I feel a sneeze coming on. Anyway, I was saying that because I was going to say bullcrap as I sneezed on that last paragraph. That was a poorly delivered joke, and I'm going to move on. In 1866, Congress passed the first Civil Rights Act, which only applied to D.C. and other federal territories. In 1868, the 14th Amendment was proclaimed to be passed. At this point, the number of subjects that the federal government had exclusive jurisdiction over increased to all of the former slaves that had not become state citizens. Can you imagine that? In a single sweep, the corporate United States picked up millions of black employee citizens that became slaves to them. It was a slave transfer. I know you think you got freed, and that's what all the movies say, but the fact was it was a transfer of slavery. There are many reasons why I do not like the 14th Amendment. First, that it was never ratified. Until we can prove that, whatever. Again, that's a repeat of the one. I cannot believe they need the court in full possession of its faculties, whatever rule. The 14th Amendment was properly approved. Further, in 1967, Congress tried to repeal the 14th Amendment on the ground that it was invalid, void, or unconstitutional. That's actually a House record. I've read it, June 13, 1967. It's a 9-page argument that was recorded in detail. It was awesome. The 14th Amendment reads, in pertinent part, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state where they reside. Okay? The validity of the public debt of the United States shall not be questioned. Really? There is a wealth of deception in the above wording because of sheer number of words that they have specific or multiple meanings in law dependent upon how they are used. And remember, go back to the very beginning of those 2 screenshots I said. The words of any document, and I'm surprised that the Constitution doesn't have definitions. I really am. The words of any document are meant, the lawful meanings are meant by the creators of the document. And they can be argued as such. They can go into court and win every time. Well, I meant it to be this. Therefore, they're bound. Okay. Feel me? Tracking? All right. We're going to take a break in about 15 minutes, and then we're going to come to the final hour of teaching and get deep, hopefully get past these cases in the next 15 minutes. Go to the part in subject and jurisdiction thereof. The word is used in the singular form, not in the plural, so as the word jurisdiction. If Congress meant the several states rather than the District of Columbia, it would have been more correct to say subject to their jurisdictions. Ooh, great point. In addition, a new pecking order is established with the phrase, are citizens of the United States and of the state where they reside. If you research the term resident and legal residence, you'll find that is the nexus that binds us all to the state and federal enforcement of commercial law statutes today. Resident is the short form of resident alien and is used in state statutes to mean someone who exhibits actual presence in an area belonging to one nation while retaining a domicile citizenship status within another foreign nation, the United States District of Columbia. Now, check this out. I'm going to read to you what the Law of Nations says about residence today, and it's very critical. Residence, the biggest word probably here. The term legal residence there further indicates that these 2 terms may have applied either to a geographical jurisdiction or a political jurisdiction. An individual may reside in one or the other or in both at the same time. In California Government Code, section blah, 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 126 sets forth the essential elements of a compact between the state and of the federal government, allowing for reciprocal taxation of certain entities and provides for concurrent jurisdiction within geographical boundaries. Both state citizens and federal citizens are Americans. It's just that when you become an employee of the corporation known as the United States, you must obey all the statutes and codes. U.S. citizens are domiciled in the District of Columbia, are privileged alien to the state where they reside, and state citizens are domiciled in their state. I don't like the word domicile, that's my opinion, and not aliens of their state. They are also not reside in their state. They are citizens of the state. Now, it's debatable, domiciled and the word reside. I don't like either one of them, and it's just because there's too many different definitions. I know people say domicile is okay. And I've read personally domicile synonymous with resident. So I don't like it. I've heard reside is okay. Same thing. So does it mean what I say it means? Yeah. But when we're playing trickery and wordplay in court, it means what they want it to mean. They ask the question. Well, don't you have a residence at such and such property address? Well, yeah. Okay, well, we're going to presume that we have jurisdiction. Okay. So the distinction may seem insignificant to you, but it is not to the court. A state citizen has a right to travel in each of the 50 states. Most of the federal statute laws do not apply to citizens of the state. If the authority for the statute can be found in the organic constitution, then the statute is of national character, as applies to both state citizens and aliens. Aliens are what? People that are uncontracted, undocumented workers. Upon introduction to the provisions which eventually became 18 U.S.C. 242, its sponsor, Mr. Stewart, Senator Stewart, explicitly stated that the bill protected all persons, quotations. He noted that the bill simply extends to foreigners, not citizens, the protection of our laws, United States versus other sin, blah, blah, blah. What could this mean? Well, it implies that citizens of other states have already had the protections introduced by this statute, but it extended to foreigners this protection also. What is a foreigner if they are not also an alien? Privileges granted by the sovereign governments, the United States, is their capacity to license what might otherwise be illegal, otherwise taxable, and regulatable. Rights such as those envisioned by the Founding Fathers are not taxable or regulatable because they are exercises of common right that could be completely destroyed by government through taxation and or regulation. These are maxims of law, so well established that they are irrefutable. Boom! I love that. Okay. I'm going to skip this. The right to tax and regulate the national citizenship is an inherent right under the rule of the law of nations. The right to tax and regulate the national citizenship is an inherent right under the rule of the law of nations. Who are they? Which is also part of the law of the United States as described in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. The jurisdiction extends to citizens of the United States wherever resident for the exercise of the privileges and immunities and protections of the federal citizenship, Federal was not there, it's in brackets. Again, I'm going to explain brackets later. The right of a trial by a jury of civil cases guaranteed by the 7th Amendment and the right to bear arms guaranteed by the 2nd Amendment have been distinctly held not to be privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States guaranteed by the 14th Amendment against abridgment by the states. And in effect, the same decision was made in respect to the guarantee against prosecution except by indictment of a grand jury contained in the 5th Amendment. That's a huge case. Guys, go read it. Hurtado. I said Tardo. Hurtado. That's my new word for it. Hurtado. Hey, go check out Hurtado versus California. I'm sorry, I'm getting kind of delirious. I've been working 7 days a week for a few weeks for this, guys. It's just study. It's a lot of study, and it's just a lot of putting it together, and it's building up and trying to get it all right for you guys. I know that you're wanting to get to the big end and see how it all flows and how it all goes and the prove-ups and all that. So I'm almost there. We're going to take a break in about 5 minutes. So the privileges and immunities, civil rights. Privileges are civil rights and immunities of the 14th Amendment were taken from the Constitution, but not identical to those referred in Article 4, Section 2 of the Constitution, which recognizes the existence of state citizens who are not citizens of the United States because there was no such animal in 1787. Plainly spoken, rights considered to be grants from the Creator. That's it. You and God. You're either before God on your knees and declaring God and He is your sovereign and you are self-governed under Him, or boom, you're subject to something. All right. we're here. So, good time to take a break. We're going to take about a 10-minute break. No, let's do 15 minutes. I'm going to see you at 2:55, and be prepared because I'm going to be going through a lot of stuff pertaining to how to get the passport application done properly as far as I'm concerned, and how to make it show as a state citizenship application, and properly define it with a great explanatory statement with it being annexed to the application. We're going to show all you guys that. We already gave you all the paperwork, so you're going to see the most of it, but I'm going to show you where I have mine back. And anyways, blessings. I'll see you in about 15 minutes.
Guys, that is going to conclude the event preview. I know that you've had a few hours and we're stopping it right before the important information, but we encourage you to go to statecitizenship.org and review there your purchase options of what you can do so that you can get a copy of the information, the rest of this video, and all the corresponding documents that go with what it takes to become a state citizen. Also, the passport application and all that I had to go through, and much, much, much more. Depending on your purchase option, it does include the ability to ask questions through the website, through your process, and so that you can solidify getting this done for yourself. We want to thank you guys. God bless, and see you at statecitizenship.org.